I beat you both. I was the first to unmute. I mean, like I'm quick draw McGraw when it comes to the audio here. Come on,
okay, McGraw.
You still got it. There you go.
I failed.
It's like I knew you had it in you. I knew you could
Join
do
us.
it.
Join us one more next time when we try it one more time. Come on, no.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I do the same thing on our own podcast, so I'm not surprised.
I mean, you've got the setup, you've got like the greenery, you've got the mic, the pop filter, you've got some great monitors on those ears. It's the last button. It's always the last step in the chain.
I know. It's always that first few seconds, and we start, and I'm just blanking out. Always on any podcast, I'm like, hi.
Hi, everybody. Isn't it weird? You know, I'm serious, like, because we all make videos for a living and we do ridiculous things like talking to a camera as if there are other people in the room with us. And it's still like, I'll have to like work up the energy. Like, I don't get stage fright, but it's like, I need to like put on the performance of getting ready. And there's the anxiety of getting started. Once I get started, I'm great.
Oh, yeah.
But it is still just such a head trip to like get the ball rolling so I can get into it.
It's always starting that's hard, right? It's like,
dude, if you guys had any idea how many my intros for my videos take the longest part of anything, like I literally have 6 to 8 minutes worth of introductions, even though it's a 45-second one. I have that many times putting just the energy level, getting in the right mode, the tones, that it's not, all of that good stuff. So,
and that's why I've given up on intros. Like my videos just have that cornball one sentence, like
I love those.
It's super wacky. And, like that's like all I can really muster these days.
I like it, but with everybody in the chat, I can see already a lot of our massive supporting community here, obviously helping us. Gary Aditya is in there as well, made it in there. I thought he was going to be a little bit late, and of course a whole bunch of other people. But of course, the main guest of the show, welcome, Isa Rodriguez. Isa does tech. All of the Isas, welcome.
Thank you so much. Always fun to be here. I mean, first time here on this new show of yours, right?
Yes.
I was telling Joshua, I'm gonna be on a show with your neighbors, my favorite neighbors of yours.
I kind of gave him a heads up as well. It's like, hey, sorry, it's only Isa. Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah. She's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. So if you could, and you can also rub it in that Josh was our first unofficial guest, but that's just because he was lurking in the comments, and we were like, oh yeah, come on in, Josh, it's fine. You got the official invite. We prepped. You didn't just like show up all roughshod. It's like we sought. Your
guys,
contribution.
I put like eyeshadow on because I was like, this is a thing. We need lighting and mascara and all these things. I had to spray my plants, make sure they looked aesthetic for your show and everything.
Yeah. Oh no, it's big time. I mean, we're gonna get like tens to hundreds of views on this, so absolutely, you got to take it seriously. You got to do that.
Absolutely, and nobody will know where Josh is going to be tonight. Definitely. Tech is in the chat as well, man. Hey, nice to see him.
Hi.
I'm amazed like that Alt Ed Tech isn't sick of my voice after our like nearly 3 hours stream.
We love your voice, Juan. Come on.
Well, I'm glad you do, because I talk a lot.
Dude, we all show up on every show. We love the chemistry. We love the the opinions, and of course the expressions and the videos, of course. But today's conversations, obviously, as you know, is the best of our week. We're gonna try to dive into some of our favorite tech, as you guys saw with the thumbnail as well as the title. But Juan, maybe you could start us off. I'm thinking, you can give us a little bit of, how are you doing? How's your week? What's that best of your week part that you like?
For sure. So from last week, and we were talking with Trisha about this, and this is just the follow up is I'm a kid in a candy store right now, I just haven't been happier. I've been coming back to my first love, audio kit, different headphones, broaching some of those conversations where, because we were talking about Snapdragon sound and had another round of conversations with the folks at Qualcomm, where we're hopefully, in addition to an interview that we're planning, we can also highlight some of the more exciting accessibility features that are going to be coming to Bluetooth. I'm working with another gentleman right now who does some manufacturing on hearing aids, and how there's this sort of there's this whole chunk of the market that just refuses to support Android. And you're leaving people out of what should be a normal audio protocol for supporting Bluetooth, but you're only going to make sure your products work with iPhones. It's really interesting stuff, but it's so silly. And TK, you're playing with them too, right?
Yes,
You
got them. Like, I was waiting for the package to deliver, and I saw you posting about them. Obviously, sorry, I need to find the monitor, the main unit. So we're talking about the Rode. Sorry, let's do Sony.
Yeah, not Panasonic autofocus. It's
right there. Let's do it one more time here.
The Rode Wireless Go 2.
Yes, seriously.
These things are incredible.
I don't know how to put it into words, man. I've switched my audio setup. I'm actually using these now for my videos. I've recorded 5 videos with these already.
So I've started using them, because obviously we're Shure SM57 old fogies for like this setup that we're podcasting right now. But anytime I'm doing that reverse shot where I'm trying to open up the office a little bit, and I don't want to have like a cable on, or I don't want to have to move a mic like right on top of my head, I've been trying to find different wireless labs, and I've had good experiences with Samsung. I've had great experiences with Komika. Komika wireless labs are very good.
Yep.
These little Rodes,
crazy.
Again, I just published the video early access for Patreon, so it's going to go live tomorrow. The full review and everything. I got Lex to do some camera work, so you'll get to see a 5-year-old holding a camera and not really pointing it at me. It's awesome. I really like her cinema verite style aesthetic as a camera out. So I'm gonna spoil part of my review for that video that goes live tomorrow. Rode has completely changed the game with their safety feature, in that each one of the transmitters. So this has a little microphone. You can also clip on a lavalier mic, so that you can.
Which is the way I use it. Yeah.
I prefer the lav as opposed to trying to keep this on a shirt. That this has built-in storage and logs a copy of what you're recording before it broadcasts out wirelessly is a game changer. I am not being hyperbolic. I cannot overstate this. Like, I can't oversell how exciting that is, because so many of us have done that thing where it's like, I push record, I talk for 20 minutes, I've got my video, the audio's borked, and I have to reshoot that video.
That happened to me like
all the time. I'm supposed to be good at this stuff. Happens to me all the time. Still happens to me. I've spent 20 years doing studio and location sound. Still happens to me. That never goes away.
But
so
it happens.
So if you're on the Patreon, I did a long-term revisit of the OnePlus 8. Not the OnePlus 8 Pro, not the OnePlus 8T, the OnePlus 8. I felt like I really didn't do that phone justice. The whole point of that video is just like, sometimes the phone slips through the cracks. I screwed the audio up on the camera input, pulled the backup copy from the transmitter, video totally saved. The only reason that video exists is because this was recording a real-time backup, broadcast quality, no compression. You pull it off of the unit. You have to there is this little dance that you have to do to
absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
But again, it's a total game changer. I haven't always loved like the noise reduction on phones. Like Samsung's gotten a little better, but you can still sound warbly if there's a lot of noise behind you. I don't like what LG's doing with their noise reduction right now. I think it's too aggressive. Like, you lose like nature behind you. And And I went out just down to our pool to finish off, just one little outdoor shot with these. And so I'm feeding the audio to the V60. So the V60 is getting the audio feed, but then I pull the audio from the backup and it's pristine without any of those noise reduction artifacts. And then it syncs perfectly because that audio was sent to the phone. Resolve just finds all of your waveforms and goes, yep, we know exactly where it's supposed to go. And it just immediately 1-for-1 transfer. So $299 for two lavs. Two wireless. Well, I guess not two lavs. Two wireless recording microphones that can use lavs. I just happen to have a bucket full of lavs right over here. $299 for two mics and a single receiver. This is, again, they have addressed every single little issue that I had with the original Wireless Go. These are my first generation Wireless Go. And they found a feature that I didn't know I needed. And now I don't know that I can live without. Like I need this on professional gear now. There's no reason not to have local recording.
7 hours of uncompressed local recording.
7 hours.
Hours.
It's so good. That's a lot.
Consistent, and that's uncompressed. Yeah, I was going to say, and if you compress it, you can go to 24 hours. It's longer, but if you want the really good source. Now, the one thing I wanted to ask you, Juan, is I've been having a little bit of a problem trying to get the audio files off. When you said a little bit of a song and dance, because my PC just goes into spinning wheel of death when I try to updating it, getting it set up was fine. I turned on the feature. Oh yeah, that far is fine. But how are you exporting? I'm assuming it's on a PC, or did it work right away for you, or is it just takes forever to load, or
the very first time I plugged in one of the transmitters, Windows tried to pull up the file explorer and it didn't know what to look for, and it kind of crashed everything on my PC.
Okay.
I'm thinking that's more of a me problem than a Rode problem. But I unplug, I plug it back in. You go into the Rode software, and it's almost kind of like you have to beat the Windows File Explorer to recognizing the mass storage. And so when Rode Connect is up first and it detects that, it seems to work more stable.
Okay, I'll have to.
Then if you plug it in and then start the Rode software. Which again, it shouldn't make a difference, but it does. The other thing is the export is pretty slow.
It is. There's no batch. That's the other thing I noticed. I couldn't do any batch exports.
You can't. And also that is, again, that's going to be one of my criticisms. It's such a small criticism considering how this has already saved my butt. But there's no way to do easy takes. So as soon as you connect the transmitter to the receiver, it starts recording. I mean, it's just a looping, or not a looping, it's just a running backup of everything. And you can program one of the buttons to drop markers, but that's not quite the same as if you run from the camera and you cut, you don't have files that line up with your audio. You just have one big block of audio that you're going to pull. So, I mean, there's definitely some finesse and room for improvement.
Absolutely.
But when you're pulling 30 minutes of uncompressed audio, it's got to take it out of a proprietary container that Rode is using. And I imagine that it's probably built that way, kind of like an AVI or an MKV, where if there was a sudden power loss or a sudden disruption, you wouldn't lose the whole file. So
that's the benefit, that it keeps recording, and that recording is pristine, even if you lose connection to the receiver.
No. What I mean is like, on OBS, you have the option to save a video in MP4 or AVI.
Yeah, as opposed to FL or FLV.
Or like an FLV. But if you use an MP4 and OBS crashes, it can't finish the MP4. It's going to corrupt the whole video.
FLV,
and that's why
the other way around.
You want to use an FLV because it's additive. It doesn't, if you suddenly pull the plug on it, it's gonna be fine. And I think that's what Rode is doing.
Learned that lesson very quickly.
But I think that's what Rode is doing with their weird container format for the uncompressed audio. But then you've got to move it off, and that takes that takes a little time.
Because
that's not a
yeah, it's transcoding the data. It's not actually just, it's not an export in the sense that just file exporting. It's really transcoding it to either WAV or MP3. So I'm looking forward to checking out your video, and of course I'll be copying everything off of that and producing my video, which will be better than yours early next week. But
well, I've got to throw the tease. Actually, I mean, if you'll pardon me just pulling this up here real quick.
Are we getting a little bit of this sneaky peek?
Yeah, I'm so proud of Lex. I've just got to pull this up because we went down to our pool and she just wanted to get out of the house because she's had a couple days of just Zoom school, and you know that's no fun for a 5-year-old. And I was like, okay, kid, well, I'm gonna put you to work. So I'm gonna mute this, but I just want you to see her camera work because it's kind of adorable.
Okay, let's go ahead and turn it on right there. Hey, my buddy.
So here I am talking. So she starts out pretty strong. Again, she's a 5-year-old holding like a little tripod, a smartphone. It's got some lavs on it. And by the time I make it to the other side of the pool, she's already starting to lose interest in being a cinematographer. And
it's like
you kind of, anyone who watches my videos, I think you've got to take it for granted that I'm pretty good at holding a phone steady at arm's length, because now she's looking at the tree behind her. I think as she swings over to the side, she's going to start looking at her boots because it had just rained and she wanted to jump in some puddles. She was totally like playing some Peppa Pig. And there's a big
That's
like,
cute.
oh, no. And she's like touching the angles.
Dude, you're lucky she didn't just close the camera and open up her app. That's the yeah, right there. Where's Juan? Who's that guy at the other side?
So it was a fun family affair using my daughter as an unpaid intern. Fun experiment. I can't wait until I can actually break these out. Just the idea that like a tiny little pouch. I mean, you were holding. I don't have the pouch handy right now.
Yeah,
but
no. So they include almost everything will fit into a little pouch that includes
little carry case, and then grab yourself like a decent phone, and you've got a podcasting rig that can go anywhere.
They were also very, very, very generous and allowed and gave us I mean, I have USB-C to USB-C, but they included a USB-C to C package in the box with a bottle, with a bag. It was like literally Christmas, and I didn't even know. So I found out from because I have an account with DHL, and it tells me when somebody's sending a package to an address. So I knew something was coming, and I just marked that as mystery item. I don't know what it was. And then I saw Juan's post early in the morning. I'm like, oh wow, that is really nice. Wrote all that good stuff. And then I get the package later in the afternoon. I'm like, oh great, because everybody was like, TK, who, how did whatever. I really didn't know it was coming. We worked with Rode, or I worked with Rode a while, maybe a few months back, and.
As soon as the announcement went live, I scribbled a little note out to one of the Rode PR people just saying like, hey, I'm just, because what I thought was cool was getting 2 channels.
It is.
And that is handy. My Samsung mics use a single receiver to support 2 wireless broadcast units. My Comica uses a single receiver. The old Rodes were 1-to-1. So for every transmitter, you would need a separate receiver. And that was a little futzy. So at first I was like, okay, this is great. Rode's going to catch up. That's all I'm looking for. I'm just happy that Rode is now giving me a 2-channel receiver, and I don't have to have all of this extra gear. But backup storage on the transmitters, it's one of those things like I'm mad I didn't think of it first. I've been using wireless labs for over a decade, and
we've had some things like that, right? Like the recorders, the portable field recorders, right?
Yeah, I've got handy recorders and stuff like that.
They typically record the audio on an SD card and pass through the audio, but the packaging has always been bulky. So Isa, if you've ever tried using it when you're on the show or when you're walking around. I'm sure, I think Josh definitely has one. He uses it whenever he does the podcast, right? It's his entire, so that typically has an SD card. Those are things that we normally would use.
The one.
I think we kind of lost you there. You're so sorry.
Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm here. Am I here? I'm here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I this actually pretty curious to me because Joshua also very specific with sounds, the same way you guys are, and I literally just want things to work. And I screw up audio so bad. Like
It's hard.
Joshua got me set up with this mic. Joshua got me set up, so I actually record all my videos on the first wireless Go, and I love that thing mostly
Yes.
because for me it just works.
Mhm.
Like I do not need to think of any adjustments and stuff like that. And now you're telling me all this. And actually, Joshua, when it got released, was telling me about it. I'm like, okay, it's sound. If it works, it works. But then now you're all getting into the details, and I'm like,
It
oh,
it truly
It's
truly
it's kind of a
it,
biggie.
it's a very it's this literally it's almost it's not like a successor. It's the successor to the successor almost to to a
Mhm.
certain point. They not only caught up, but they also went forward. And
Yeah, that's a
the big
main point at the end of my review is we get excited when we see them address issues with the older
Mhm.
version of a product.
Yeah.
This one legit took me by surprise how immediately accessibly valuable this audio backup feature is.
Yeah, no, no,
Is
absolutely.
just
And
blowing me
there's
away.
also another option when there, I don't know if you played with it, the ability of recording 2 levels. There's the high level and the mid level in case you want to be able in case you're in a noisy environment and you want to be able to play around with the audio file. There's also that setting in there. Now, a lot of that we're talking about, by the way, Isa, if you do end up getting a chance to play with those, you need to use that with the PC app that you need to download from
Yeah.
Rode's website to configure them.
Oh.
The secondary, the automatic recording isn't on, and there's no way to turn it on from the unit. It's a software update. Well, there is an update anyways.
Oh.
There's an update to the transmitter and receiver. But the short answer, once you have it set up, you're set. And like Juan said, backup audio for any time you have a problem. I cannot tell you how many. I mean, we talked about it, right? Isa, when you posted about it, I think was it a few days ago. That day, I messaged you, and then that afternoon when I was recording my audio, I had the whole thing, the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
still happens.
Yeah.
And you think you catch everything, but batteries are batteries.
I know. I know. It's so. I mean, for me, of all the stuff I've tried audio wise, and again, I'm not very exacting when it comes to audio. I understand and recognize I have to level it up because it does give you a certain quality when you have good audio. Like that,
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people don't realize, I think, starting out. The best one that's worked for me so far has been the first wireless Goes. And even then,
Mhm.
the main issue I always get is that yes, I do lose audio because I don't turn it on. I get low bat. It's yeah, that just solves a whole lot of stuff for me.
It's really good times, and it's streamlined. It's simple.
Mhm.
I'm definitely categorizing it as prosumer. Like it crosses the
Mhm.
boundary between like more
300
low
is
level.
yeah,
300 is not an impulse buy. It's
exactly.
not like on a whim. I just want to
Mhm.
spruce up a home video kind of a purchase for someone with more casual expectations. But it's so accessible. I mean, considering that like Sennheiser Evos, I remember when those used to be $1,000 for a single mic. Like this is legitimately a shot above, accessible, easy to use. You don't have to dance around with like different pairings and settings or finding
No,
clear
no.
air or
Everything's
frequencies.
paired out of the box. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Uh,
so clean. It's so
it is.
clean.
Do they have
But
it
yes,
in
no.
white too, though?
I think Gen 2. No, I mean because I actually no, I'm with you because I actually do kind of like
Yeah, those
the
are
the
yeah.
the white wireless Go. Just in terms of look, I kind of like them a little better, but I think that this is a step towards them trying to treat this just a little bit more pro, where
Mhm.
this is going to be on a cold shoe mount, on a black arm, on a black camera. You
Exactly.
know, again, it's all going to kind of blend together. I think I don't know that these are going to come in different colors.
Well, so far, well, you never know. They may be a special
They
edition
might.
at some point. No, exactly. They may just come out, with either a pink one, a red one, or especially, code
Okay,
Project
well,
Red.
Yeah, like a rose gold edition.
And the moment that color is out, Josh is like saying, "Buy, ship." He's like, um, it is
But
there.
when you get the chance to, I mean, to like when we can go face to face and stuff, I'm again, I'm not trying to oversell these. plug a receiver into a phone, fire up an audio recording app, clip 2 microphones to people, separate out the channels if you want to have a little editing. But if you want to go straight from the phone, you can merge the channels into one.
That was another thing. You can merge the channels. Exactly.
You can cross the streams. It's great. And you can record, finish, edit, upload all from a phone. Like the idea that I'm going to go and do an interview one-on-one with someone and take a laptop and microphones and like an audio interface and all this other gear is dead. It's gone. Yeah. It's evaporated. And
in theory,
this is rocking my socks.
In theory, you can connect this to a phone, walk around the room, and have that podcast happening.
Exactly. Yeah, you could be on it right now, walk around. Don't have to you could keep talking to us, walk all the way back and come back and do everything you want. Well, I think that's the main benefit.
And think about those situations too. I mean, like there are so many times TK and I have tried to do like meetups in the past where maybe we'd have a phone up on a little tabletop tripod just to shoot some video. And I mean, like the last time we got to do that for one of our phone swap challenges, like mall security came in to like, do you have permits? What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know
about all this. Happens here too.
Yeah, it was totally fine, and they're like sitting there. We used Kamikas, I think, at that point.
We were on Kamikas. But I mean, again, we want to produce a conversation and we want to produce content, and maybe it's just maybe all we need is the audio, and literally it's this discreet. Clip it to a shirt, have a phone in your back pocket, and have that conversation. Have a walk and talk. Go chat at a restaurant. Like it could be that organic, that comfortable. For chilling out, how familial the conversation would be.
So cool. That'd be like another different level of like what was that the carpool karaoke thing? Except
yeah, exactly.
And be like, so how tell me about blah 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 in a serene garden with birds chirping. With Oprah.
And again, in public places like that, where other people are apt to get very uncomfortable around cameras. TK and I went to that. Was it the Japanese gardens here in Southern California?
Yeah.
And as soon as you walk in, they're like, "Well, wait a minute. We see you're holding a camera. Are you going to be recording any professional content? Do you need to have? I mean, we need to have releases. Or are you going to be putting down a tripod? I mean, like." They're immediately on it. But if TK and I wanted to have the exact same conversation, just podcast style, no one would know. And it would be perfectly mixed. The audio levels would be on us, so it's not like you're getting audio drift because I'm closer or farther away from a mic or anything like that. And we'd be able to do that anywhere at any time with the minimal amount of gear to haul, processing power needed. What these open up and being able to save the audios in case anything like kind of borks from the receiver is huge. I couldn't be more taken with these. And again, it's just been an audio nerd week where this was the cherry on the top of a brilliant audio Sunday. My ears have just been so happy over these last 2 weeks.
So for me, this is a big upgrade from the Saramonic pair that I have, which is a similar. I think Saramonic released something that was very similar to the first generation Rode.
Yeah,
and it did have 2 transmitters to 1 receiver. It had that bridged over, audio merged, not separate. So getting the display, getting the functional options, and the backup audio was, like I said, as I'm discovering more and more things, I was just getting like, oh my God, what did they send me? What did I just, you know what I mean? Like when you figure out exactly what you got.
It keeps getting better.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh,
it's so good. And then you're like, and it does this. And it does this.
The audio level, the secondary backup audio with the lower level is also a big thing for me, especially when you're outdoors. You have the ability of working with both types of levels. So that's
okay. So here's my thing. I wish we had a pad from the transmitter.
Yeah,
because from the receiver side, if you set the lower level. I'm usually okay, but from the mic, I can sometimes clip because it's trying to find an auto gain envelope, and I keep my office pretty quiet. But then I project like I'm still.
Well, I was going to say you project. Yeah, for me it works perfectly. I don't speak that loud.
So the initial like first word or two out of my mouth will clip and then you'll see the mic kind of pull it back. All I want is so like you go into the Rode software and on the transmitter just say I want a 5 dB envelope to minimize where you think I might be, and that's all I would need. That's the last little teeny piece that would make these 110% perfect. Right now they're just 99% perfect.
So here's a quick question from All That Tech is, with them being 2.4 gigahertz system, did you have any problems as far as interference with when you were using them? Like, Wi-Fi, other devices, mobile devices, or anything like that?
So I didn't talk about it too heavily because we're not in saturated environments now.
I was about to say.
Yeah, when we're back on a trade show, that's going to be the torture test. When you're walking by all those booths and you've got all of the phones and the Wi-Fis and the stadium Wi-Fi or the event hall Wi-Fi and Bluetooth out the wazoo, that'll probably mess up
a little bit.
2.4 gig mics. If you're worried about just the pure signal connectivity, you've really got to find a solution like the Komikas, because the Komikas broadcast at 600 meg. So they're well under Bluetooth and Wi-Fi radio frequencies. That being said, audio backup. I mean, it sucks that you would maybe have to have a
recording, even if it's not transmitting. Yeah, you're right. Even if it's not transmitting, it's locally storing it.
Local recording. So you lose some of the immediacy, the things that I really praise about like mobile content creation, like going straight from phone to video editing.
If you don't want to edit, yeah, exactly.
You would need to dump that audio onto a proper laptop and make that transition. But it's so perfectly built for exactly that kind of situation. In the Gadget Lab, where I've got like Wi-Fi and a bunch of Bluetooth products, like I'm not hitting the saturation where I would make these things stumble. The auto signal hopping is pretty well implemented. It's seamless. You never see how the mics are constantly dancing to find clear air free of interference.
Yeah.
I haven't found any situations that I can demonstrate where it's going to mess the mics up. I'm very confident on a trade show floor, 2.4 gig is going to be tricky to use, but once it starts storing locally, you're probably going to be fine. The only thing I would add is
days for us to get back into and to have to deal with those. I just want to get back to those days.
I just think I want that problem again.
Yeah, I want that kind of problem. I want to be able to complain about those type of things.
Yeah. I was gonna say, that's good to know once we hit CES again. But then I'm like, I don't care. If I had,
I'll be at CES again.
Running around smoke-filled casinos, getting lost in this labyrinth of
get 20,000 steps a day. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's easy to. I'm completely pivoting here, but I miss you guys. I miss everything about it. I miss everything I hated about it. I miss it.
Dude, we the same here. We can't wait, and we just hopefully by next CES things go back to we're more able to do more things, get back into somewhat of a normal, the new normal, however situations end up being. But good segue though. I love the fact that we're talking about futures and how things are going. But we saw your coverage this morning. Obviously, you got a new shiny matte finish. How did you get the matte finish?
TK, how do you do that? Like, you got a new shiny matte finish? A new shiny matte finish?
No. I'm sorry. Shiny is the camera module, and matte finish is the opposite.
Okay, that's better.
That's a good save.
Yeah. Totally on the fly. Totally didn't know what I was saying. I'll be honest.
I don't think I can do this. Can I do this? This feels like makeup. You know how makeup people do that when they go like... Yeah.
Oh no.
Because I'm on a webcam, so it's like it's not gonna really focus. But
actually, what it would look really good.
Actually,
that's not what I wanted to do.
TK. There you go.
Sorry.
Ooh,
sorry, sir.
There we go. Okay, so
right there.
All right, so
I do have a different color.
Tell me about, because first of all, that's what I wanted to ask is you were sort of indicating before we got to jump on the show that you made a targeted request for this color.
So I make targeted requests for everything I get.
Requests, I like it.
Because I mean, a lot of times people.
Okay, we'll give it a second. I think it should be back in a few.
Hold, wait for it.
Hold on, I'm going to freeze too.
What is happening? I apologize. The undersea cables
No
taking forever.
worries.
What? Oh,
Okay, okay, we're back. We're back.
yeah,
Ha.
yeah. Welcome back.
Okay, you make a
Yeah,
targeted request for
I'm
everything
sending a
that comes
targeted
in.
request for everything that comes in, so that I get quote unquote the cute colors. um,
I like
it's
that.
always, sometimes it's just that sometimes they are available, but they just don't think to send it out because
Mm.
again, it's text. So I mean, it's not like we're looking at it and then
Right.
I'm getting so sad. I'm sorry. Did you hear
Right.
that? Was I squealing on this live show? Yeah.
You made.
No, no,
I
no.
think we made it through most of that, but no. I mean, it's been a difficulty in reaching out to PR, and
Yep.
people seem to take it by surprise when I would make a request like, "Hey, if you've got the choice, if you do a color, I
Mhm.
promise you, the footage is going to look better." For any color, and I don't really care what color, just any color, because if it's just another mirror finish black rectangular slab that's reflecting my terrible office lighting, it's not going to make your thing. And like PR people act like, oh well, that's very interesting. We've never heard any feedback like that before, and you're like, are you insane? How could you not be getting nothing but that feedback?
So for
Yeah.
reference, mine is, well, let's see. Okay, so you can kind of see it right there. This is mine. It's very mirror finish, very reflective.
Eh,
And there's nothing wrong with it. I've actually leaned in heavy on the reflection at this time. In some of my images when I'm outdoors, I'm actually having it reflect exactly what the sky is, what the pictures are, like a flower or a branch.
like the phone's not in focus, but the mirror
Totally.
image
No.
is.
Yeah, and that was one of my like I think one of my pictures that I first pictures I took of it. And I shared that with I was trying to basically show my wife, like, hey, look how nice, and she's like, well, the phone's out of focus. I said, yeah, that was intentional. I was trying to actually I was intentionally focusing on the
It
sky
took
with
me a
clouds
sec when I
behind.
saw that photo. I was like, why would TK post a photo of the phone out of focus? Oh, I get it.
It happens.
But
So
Issa doesn't have that problem because she's got
Mhm.
a
well, she has
fancy
more
Mac.
Yeah.
experience. So here, for a little bit of reference, this is actually my first time receiving or being able to get a Find X ahead of time. My coverage on the Find X2 Pro was months later. I was able to finally, start working with the contact. So very blessed, very, very, very graceful for Oppo for allowing me to be part of it. And I did not know there was an option. Honestly, like now I know. Hopefully, in the future, the moment they're I'm able to talk to somebody. And oh, by the way, any
Yeah.
color other than mirror would be great. But
So
it's okay.
I will say though that I mean I'm happy that Joshua got the mirror finish because that means
Oh
if
yeah,
he's
yeah.
taking my Instagram photos, I can see myself.
Yeah. I love
And
it.
it sort of acts like that second
Mm-hmm.
screen. You know how they
It
do it
is.
on the foldy phones? Yeah.
Yeah. No. That was one of my biggest things when I was using it to record the video samples from the back cameras. That was actually very, very nice. The ability of seeing yourself exactly, centering, and all of that.
Mhm.
There is a positive to it. But I realized at the end of the day, I am going to be putting a case on it anyways.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a big thing. The carbon fiber, they included a couple of cases, which was very nice. But
Mhm.
so what are your thoughts on it? Obviously,
So
maybe
okay,
yeah,
about that. It's so funny
yeah.
because I am a case person too, but
Mm,
it's also I have pink hair and I sort of stain everything I touch.
mhm.
For context, this used to be a white case. As you can see, it's not really white anymore. And that's I don't know if you can see it, but that's
I
yeah, it pretty much happens to anything I hold. But then another thing about this phone that I like is for some reason Oppo has, I think, nailed it when it comes to how a phone should feel in your hand.
Mhm.
How do I explain this? Like again, I review things and there's still a little acquiescence to what comes out because I still feel like this is too big, right? But
Mhm.
Mhm.
considering that I have smaller hands, Oppo's been able to come up with thinner phones that are also very light and are very much curved. So it really feels comfortable to hold. Like it's an enjoyable experience. I
Mhm.
don't know how else to explain that because sometimes people are like, what are you talking about? It's a
Oh, and I think you're talking about the Reno line,
difference,
right?
you guys.
The
There is a
like the
difference.
Reno 5 or the. Mhm.
Yes. 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 Yes, so the Reno 5 Pro, it actually started with the Reno 4 Pro, which was a very nice thin phone. It continued on to the Reno 5.
Yeah.
And now the Find X3 has that same nice thin feel. I really like it. I really enjoy holding it even without the case. I mean, I may be crazy for just running around without cases, but I'm not leaving my house anyway. So I guess that lowers the risk of me doing stuff to my phones, right?
Absolutely.
I love. Okay, to be completely honest, I also expected to hate how this thing looked because coming from the Find X2 Pro, which was a very luxe, classy looking device, it's just, it was all kinds of extra and it was very classy, exactly. Gold details and vegan leather and all that. And, in renders, this whole thing doesn't really look as graceful, I think. We all initially saw the renders and we were just like, what's going on? In person, it does look better. I like it weirdly. I'm happy about how that all slopes and curves. I
That
don't know.
design on the back
I'm
is actually very the way they did it was crazy nice. That nice transition slope up,
mhm.
all the edges around the camera module at the top. It's crazy.
it, it's
I like it.
I find it so funny that it's like the bump almost disappears when you look at it from this angle, right? It's like, what's going on? What, how is it doing that? Like, but it's because of all the curves. And I just, maybe it's me and my aesthetics, but it feels a little more feminine to me. It feels softer even when I hold it. I mean, I would still much rather have, like, let's say, I don't know, a gradient light pink purple one always, right? I
Oh yeah.
always want those colors. But I mean, how it feels isn't bad. I don't hate it like how I expected to hate it.
Mhm.
um it's pretty interesting. And well, of course, we're gonna have to talk about the microscope, right?
Mhm.
The microscope mode is not was is like
I think that just completely took everyone by surprise, right? Everyone's
because it
like,
was just
"Ooh,
how good
moons.
it is. It's
Let's
just
zoom
how
into the
good.
moon."
Where
And
can you
then
zoom? Where what do you do? Yeah, exactly. I love it. Okay, we lost her for a second. We'll give it a second.
Give it a second. She's gonna come back.
Okay,
She's gonna come back.
I'm gonna freeze in a weird pose.
I'm just gonna
I'm gonna
no.
assume no. I think it
Stay on
borked.
target. Stay on target. I gotta say, I mean, especially watching you two handle it, it looks a lot better in
It
video than it's looked in those press images.
so the overall so to kind of complement what Isa was saying, for sure they learned a lot from the Reno line, which is it actually feels lighter than it is physically smaller than the Find X2 Pro. So you get that feel already smaller device, a little bit more narrow, but you get all of the optimizations and everything that you loved about in the Find X2 Pro transitioning over. And then they went on and they doubled down. They added a whole bunch of different features to it. So as a smartphone, I was a little bit worried because I in 2020, like if anything, and so Isa dropped that there, and we'll give her a second to jump back in. The main thing that kind of surprised me out of 2020 was how much I would like the Find X2 Pro, not the original because I didn't get it at the time. I got it
Mhm.
later on, and I got the Android 11 update with Color OS, and so Oppo did a very big overhaul of that phone. The camera performance on it from an Oppo device, like basically coming from another Find X or like the Find X, the other series, the cameras were actually very good. The audio quality
Mhm.
was great. The back shooter for sure, obviously the best performer. 4K was always good. And as Isa was mentioning there, the bells and whistles that came with it. It has the 512 gigs of internal storage, the vegan leather look with the orange. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I did. That was weird. Just to me, typically vegan leather or like orangey colors are not my thing. So I've appreciated the clear case on it, and if anything, let me see here. Let me and
Hey,
hey, welcome
hey.
back. Welcome back.
I don't know what's going on. I'm supposed to have better internet these days, but apparently
So I was going
it
to ask, actually, do you have a VPN?
No, I do not.
I would probably test out your connection with a VPN when
Uh-huh.
when you do live streams, and that may
Uh-huh.
help.
Okay, I will do that.
But
Yeah, it's I don't know what's going on. To be honest, I was doing pretty well last week, and then this week it's just decided that I'm having none of this. And
Yeah, I
maybe
think it's definitely been a part of the conversation where we're all hitting our data so much harder than ever before.
absolutely.
You know, like
yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's one of the cheats why TK and I do this
yeah.
so late at night.
So
You know,
later,
in our
I was
time
about to
zone.
say, yeah,
This
yeah,
is like
Yeah.
hopefully everyone else is like just wrapping up streaming,
But
and
the
we can
thing
have.
is, I did get a new connection that's supposed to give me faster speeds and more consistent stuff.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it pretty much has been better, but like for some reason this week it's been spazzing out. I have no answers.
The other let's play Issa tech support for a second. This is
Oh
always
my
fun.
god, this is gonna take
Um,
a while. You guys, this is basically Joshua's life, but yes, go on.
so the other question would be: Are you on Ethernet or are you on Wi-Fi?
I'm on
Right.
Wi-Fi right now.
Yeah.
So
But
the other thing I would see is you know, when you go to a hard cable connection, sometimes it
uh-huh.
helps clear up some of those intermittent issues.
So the thing is, I don't have like I'm in my room in the that sounds so bad to say. Like people laugh at me when I say I live in the attic. I do. I don't have
Get
those
back in your
actual hard.
cupboard,
Yeah.
Issa. Get back in that. Just shove you in there.
No, and so I do have this mesh router that's literally just
Mhm.
my connection, like
Mhm.
on here. From this area of the room. Right now there are like 3-4 people in the house, and I have stolen the connection and just set my device as priority. But it's just it keeps on going down, and I think it's
Right.
the connection per se. So
So
I don't know. Yeah.
you know, Ethernet cable is cheap, and
Yeah.
it looks goofy when you're just like stringing it like along baseboards and like shoving it under doors, but
Yeah. No, yeah,
but
I will
it can still
definitely
help.
look into that.
No,
I will.
I mean, because when we got interrupted and TK was kind of filling in, like, because I haven't handled an Oppo.
Mhm.
You know what? The last time I got to play with an Oppo was when we did that factory tour in
One,
Shenzhen.
that's where we met. I
Yeah,
met one in Shenzhen where we missed that
that's
one dinner and we didn't have anything to eat.
and you're like, oh no, I'm starving.
Yes. Oh, this was
Um,
when I couldn't find the table. Yes.
so
That was the
that's the
first
last
video I
time.
ever
It's
shot
all coming
ever.
back. It's all coming back right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's the last time I handled anything Oppo. I mean, it's been that long. So one of the things I really wanted to ask you was, we hear, especially here in the United States, we hear about how software design is influenced by different regions.
Mhm.
Like OnePlus definitely seems to be courting the Indian market a little
Mhm.
bit more aggressively
Mhm.
with devices like the
Mhm.
Nord. What have your experiences been with Color OS? We seem to be kind of coming out of a trend where stock Android is the only Android worth talking about. And now these manufacturer skins seem to be garnering a lot more interest from
Mhm.
folks.
So
Yep.
this might be an unpopular opinion, and I loved how stock
Probably not.
Android. I mean, I was just never really very particular about software as long as the phones did the stuff that I wanted it to do. And two,
Mhm.
I like weird, funny, cute features, meaning
Mhm.
Xiaomi's OS won't bother me if it gave me all the extra camera features.
Mhm.
Oppo's OS wouldn't bother me. It gives me like a way to personalize my always on display the way LG's OS does. And I like those
Mhm.
tiny little things.
Yep.
I will never say that this OS is a little slow because really I don't notice. It's those little things. If any, and this is weird, the one thing I hate is iOS's back button once you're used to Android is on the
Right.
other corner, and that's probably the one thing I have ever noticed in an OS in my life. So there's one thing. I will say though that when I started reviewing phones, the very first phone that I reviewed was a Vivo phone, and this was during the time when Oppo and Vivo were sort of like just up and coming and starting.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
was very similar to Oppo's OS. So eventually I did do Oppo phones, and they were very different. The reason why I did that Vivo phone was because it looked exactly like iOS, and as an iPhone 6s user at the time, it was easier for me to sort of figure out this Android phone because it looked similar and I knew where stuff were.
Mm-hmm.
But now that's not the case, and I love how they've sort of morphed into their own identity. I like how they've sort of put in stuff that they feel like their user base would be interested in.
Mhm.
The whole stock thing, we don't have Pixels, so we don't have
Right.
that. We have One Pluses, but it's not as strong or as big. So there are a few people who would go for that, but I think in general, in an area which is more dominated by um, Chinese phones, like it's
Mhm.
not that. It may be an issue for some, but it's not necessarily something that would make or break someone's purchase.
Well,
People here, yeah, go
but
on.
more, it seems that like that the region seems to be embracing those types of manufacturer skins.
Mhm.
I mean, like, is Sony even a player?
No,
Where you're at?
so Sony, once upon a time we had them. The last ones I tried were, I forget which Sony it was, but it was one of the first ones where you could scan people, and of course I
Oh,
jumped on that.
Oh, the was
yeah.
it the X? No, not the
I want to
Z.
say it was one of the Performance X's that
Yeah,
had
yeah,
the.
I saw it at MWC at
Sorry, we're
launch.
interrupting Issa's story as we
Sorry, yeah,
go.
Oh
please.
no,
Sorry.
no, no! I can't remember the phone anyway, so I'm just like, yeah, that phone. We all LG Mobile has also pulled out in this
Yeah.
market, but it's
So
also
the South Korean aesthetic is gone. The Japanese aesthetic is gone. You don't have any Google.
no,
Like
we
the
don't.
core Android or stock Android thing
No,
isn't accessible there. So the main
no.
players are actually these
Mhm.
these brands that kind of
They are
came
the
Yeah.
from mimicking iOS first and then
Mhm.
kind of taking iOS design into something unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you have to also realize though that even if that were the case, it's a very different audience. Like for example, if you say an Oppo phone from where I am, they still
Mhm.
don't understand the Find X series. Why? Because to them, Oppo devices are hot because they are the mid-range to budget devices.
Mhm. Yeah.
Realme is real hot, Xiaomi is real hot, Vivo's real hot, but we're not talking about their flagship lines here. We're talking about the F series and the the A series.
Right.
The Reno series. This is very interesting because I mean, one, we cover the R series, right? I
Yeah.
remember we were kind of for the R series, and that was their mid-range line.
I
Yeah.
think it was
Once
the
upon a
R17
time,
or something.
it,
Yeah,
it
or
is yeah.
R15.
We even started with the R11, I think.
Yeah.
R11, R yeah. So these phones were marketed towards Europe and I think Australia, I think at some point. I don't know. I can't remember, but I remember getting questions from that part of the world and I'm like, but it never released in Southeast Asia. A lot of Southeast Asian regions did not get it because it was the higher tier mid-range. And then
Right.
eventually they asked for it. We have the Renos in the Philippines now finally because I think it's sort of morphed into the Reno line because like so the thing with Oppo phones is somehow you see there's very weird movement between the lines. Like they're still trying to figure out what they want the lines to be.
Yeah.
Little by
I
little, I'm sure you guys have seen.
no, no,
Well, that's just it. Is
I
we don't get as the same kind of firsthand experience because, and especially here in the United States, I think we're only just starting to find better footing for
yeah.
better competition in the
Mhm.
entry level and mid range. I mean, whatever those words even mean. Where here in the United States, someone will pick up like a $400 or $500 phone and say it's budget, and you're like, no, oh, that's really not. That's
So
not
okay,
a cheap
so
phone.
for context, like from my side of the world, if you say it's a budget device, it's probably gonna be around $200 and below, and you can get capable phones. Two
Okay,
hundred
that's
dollars.
what I feel like qualifies for entry level. You know,
Mhm.
$100 to $200, and as you get from like 200 to 300, there's some overlap, but you're starting
Yeah.
to push into nicer devices that can accomplish more.
Yeah, and even like let's say the mid-range category, you'd have upper mid-range, lower mid-range, and lower mid-range, right? And the lower mid-range sort of toes the line between budget and mid-range, and it can get crazy. But yeah, wait, what was I saying?
Well, no,
We do that a lot on this podcast, by the way.
The Reno
ramble.
the Reno line.
You just take this wherever you
Yeah.
want to go. It's fine.
So the Reno line, oh, I remember. So the Reno
The
line,
skin.
they have it.
Yeah.
It got released, right? We have different versions in the Philippines. You have the Reno 5 Pro in India, and then the Reno 5 in India. But then in the Philippines, we have the Reno 5 5G, which is not the Reno 5 Pro.
You have a Reno 5 5G, not a Reno 5 Pro 5G? Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah. Yes.
That sounds a little like TCL.
There's a Reno
too.
5 and the Reno 5 5G.
The Reno 5 Pro 5G was the longest, like, it's a great phone. It's a great phone. Runs a MediaTek processor, has a lot of good features there. Very slim, large battery, and actually very light. Like the construction, they really.
I mean, she's got it right there, TK.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you just let her show it on the camera.
I was doing the visuals. I was doing the B-roll for TK.
Yeah. Now give me that sexy voiceover, TK. And here we are. Single block of aircraft aluminum.
Very, very glossy. No glossy. Very matte, reflective, very, very beautiful device. Actually, the design's very nice. And then the nice little blue accent color on the actual camera module on the back. But it actually feels very light. That was one of the things I was surprised how the Reno line has morphed into this series, because I got introduced to Reno with the Reno Zoom back when I was at oh man, was it in London? Not even in the area, the Asian market. I was in London for an Honor event, and a buddy of mine that used to work for Honor that moved over to Oppo, he's like, "Hey, do you guys want to stop over, say hi a little bit?" And the Reno Zoom, that was the first, and then we were there after that with the Reno Z, and then we got into these the Reno 3, Reno 4, Reno 5.
So it's funny, and this is what we were talking about a little earlier on about how it seems like Oppo's still trying to figure out what their line's supposed to be, because the Oppo Reno 10 times zoom was their very first phone with the periscope lens. So it had a really, really nice 60 times zoom. It was amazing. It was mind-blowing. It was a phone that was dedicated to content creators. That was the whole pitch. It was for video. It was big. It was bulky. It had the shark's fin.
Yeah.
But I love that phone, though. I love that phone. And then the Reno 2 came out. It was a little thinner, but it was just still pushing that direction. And then the Reno 3 came out, which sort of looked like this more. And then the Reno 5 came out, and it's did we have 4? I don't think we had 4. We had 4. Yeah. We had 4, yeah. And the 4 came out and the 5 came out, and they all look like this.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, going back to the Find series, I was trying to figure out like how to like explain that whole movement too, right? Because the Find X, still my favorite phones to this day. One of the most unique, one of the most beautiful, the classiest. And then like this is the Find X3 Pro. And I think it was Aaron who said it in his video. It's like you have all these 3 phones from the same line, but there's no unifying factor. You don't know where they're going with this line. You just know it's the best of the best.
To jump in on that, after a point, don't we just give up and say Oppo's unifying feature is that there is no... They're the anti-iPhone. iPhones have looked the same and will continue to look the same and offer, a very similar sort of, cookie cutter punch experience from generation to generation. I literally the only thing we can count on for an Oppo is it's not going to be different. But did you like what you had before? It's not going to be that.
But I guess it's like I'm coming from my whole, I liked where you were going that first time. Where's that? I mean, I guess you could have gotten that loyalty from me if you kept on like giving me that, give me it, But it's all. I mean, don't get me wrong. I look up to Oppo and see the innovations they're doing, what they're trying to give out, the how they're trying to go a grain. I made it into one word. Against the grain these days, which is why I applaud the whole microscope thing so much, because people will always say, yeah, who's gonna need a microscope? Well, who's gonna need to zoom into the moon? Like, really, we're all going for gimmicks at this point. And you can call it a gimmick all you want, but it's a gimmick on top of a very solid foundation.
Right.
And,
it's not taking away from something else. It's not like we got rid of the screen so we could give you a microscope. So you just plug in your phone to a display and you're going to be fine.
Yeah. And it's like, they're like, oh my gosh, why would we need a microscope? And I'm like, sure, you don't have to use it. There are 2 main cameras on this phone. It has a 50 megapixel wide angle camera. Like, a lot of people are like, it's just a gimmick, but it's also, we've been asking for a powerful wide angle camera and they gave us that. And now you're looking at the added microscope and saying it doesn't matter. We're not going to use it for every day. I tell you what, you can only take so many photos of the moon. Like, it's like, I'm not hating on the moon. Like, it is amazing. It did blow my mind.
The moon is an amazing celestial body.
This satellite is a beautiful thing.
I feel like that just became the title of this podcast. I'm not hating on the moon. But to that point, and again, I mean, like, I feel like from the outside looking in, as someone who doesn't, I can't go to a corner store, to a Best Buy and pick one of these up. I mean, like, it's a bit more of an effort for me to import or to find a reseller or something like that. It's always struck me that the greatest strength is also sort of the greatest weakness of Oppo, which is kind of a confusion over all the different product lines, all the different companies that they kind of influence through the whole like BBK conglomerate umbrella of manufacturers. But Oppo to me has always been, one, can we make a better selfie camera? And two, what is the novelty this year? And it's not going to be the same as next year. I mean, it's not even like, oh, well, this was a gimmick and they abandoned it. No, Oppo seems to have an incredibly aggressively consistent track record of, this phone, we just wanted to do this.
You know what?
It'll probably never come back.
Now that you point that out, you're exactly right in that maybe we don't need a unifying factor. It's just great every time we come up with it. But
the novelty seems to be the unifying factor, because it's like every couple of months there's a new Oppo release.
Well, there's a new Reno,
it's got something different on it. And that's what's going to generate some headlines and maybe get someone who was on the fence about a phone or waiting to do a phone upgrade, or this is a feature you might care about. And then the company aggressively moves on to whatever they want to do next. And it's just kind of that dopamine consistent pulse of this is new and fun. 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 If you want like the consistency, like I feel a OnePlus device has tended towards a more consistent user experience over the years. Whether or not people might feel that way about the OnePlus 8s or the Nords is obviously debatable. But Oppo is its own thing of how can we sell novelty? We want you to feel like you've never played with something like this before.
I mean, I have never.
Microscope mode is something, and you might never get to play with that ever again. So if you want to be on this ride, this is your opportunity to be on this ride. If you wait, you might miss out. And there's something kind of bold and kind of again, sort of sure of themselves. There's almost like an arrogance, but at the same time, it's for fun, frivolous stuff. So
and I think that's also why I appreciate their tech so much. Again, like in there's something to be said about these brands who once upon a time just released stuff and would compare their stuff to bigger brands, and that would be it, right? It's outdoing the doer, when a lot of people would argue that you cannot outdo the doer. And then they were like, well, okay, then we can be different doers. You do your moonshots. We can do this thing too. Then, and I think it's like, it's a very interesting thing too, though, that we have an Oppo flagship mostly being compared to the Samsung flagship, the
Yeah.
Samsung flagship. You know what I mean? And a lot of people could also argue that, well, we'd still go for that Samsung flagship. But I tell you now, like for someone like me, who the one thing I hate about that phone is its size. Like I will never go for an Ultra. It's it's too much. And then you're
Yeah.
giving, yeah, I mean, it's there are these different little factors that make it appealing to
Mhm.
people if we get past the whole it's an Oppo thing as well, which I think from my side of the world is the main thing. They still look at Oppo phones as basically mid-range and budget devices, when if
Right.
you look at their track record, they've consistently come up with great flagship devices.
Mhm.
And Oppo is fast becoming, I think it's at top 3 now.
Yeah.
Is
It's
it not? Like
it
they've,
not
yeah,
only that, it overtook
Huawei.
Huawei in China in their home turf, which is
they're
actually a
it
massive
is. I
it's
mean,
a massive accomplishment for Oppo, specifically because that's been like literally the number one claim Huawei's always been going with,
yeah.
is that their sales, which it doesn't mean obviously that Huawei is not selling, but
Mhm.
the thing that I also really loved is, I mean, and since you were talking about the 10x zoom, the change from ColorOS 7 to ColorOS 11 was a very drastic change for them. I started with 7 on the Find X2 Pro, and I didn't fall in love with the Find X2 Pro till 11 came on it, because it literally like revamped the entire experience, the fluidity of the UI, not the pixel. I'm not trying to say obviously it became more Android, pixel stock Android type of thing, but for a skin, it became super functional for me. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I understand when you say that, it's living in there using it. So I appreciate that always.
I think it's like, I think at some point internally Oppo just had a turning point where they were like, you know what, we're gonna be something else now. So
Yeah.
bye.
Bye.
So,
We'll try something else.
and then if we look at how they've been doing it, it pretty much shows all the
Well, but
little parts.
but again, I feel like the company has been consistent in their sales, consistent in in their growth.
Mhm.
And for all of us techies that kind of sit on the sidelines and like, oh, but what does this company need to do to succeed? And well, there's the Apple business model, and that's held up as this thing that you need to respect, and profitability, and who's the most popular and spending the most on advertising. And I think it definitely stands as an interesting commentary point, especially over the recent sort of market changes. Huawei getting hit by some political issues, and
Yeah.
other sort of the good filler brands like LG, Sony, Motorola's. These brands that we looked at as like those mid-pack players that are kind of a little less sure in the market right now.
Mhm.
Here's a company that sort of defies a lot of the common talking points that techies hold up as, well, that's the established way that Samsung goes about doing their business, so that's the successful business model. And then Oppo's like, well, here, hold my beer.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
I
guess
love.
it's success can, especially in this time, right? Success, especially when it comes to a time when we don't even know what technology is going to look like, and it's very possible to have succeeded with something that was completely off radar
Mhm.
just a year ago, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the bottom line, right? There is no predetermined way of how success in the smartphone industry could and would look like.
Mhm.
And I feel like these efforts are paying off, no matter how unorganized it may look to some who are used to a certain way. I mean, again, I fell into that trap of thinking that, there's just something about them not sticking to. I just really want the Find X, man. Oppo.
Bring back
I
Shark
just
Fin.
I just really like those pop-ups. Like I am a big fan of pop-ups. That purple gradient, man, okay. Yeah.
The
It,
Find X was crazy. The design was like literally it was so out there, but it was so appealing. I had a chance to, I bought a used one, and I got a chance to play with it for a little bit, about a couple of years ago, and I fell in love with it. On the other end, though, the mechanical part always kind of makes me worried for longevity because I do have, at the time, my son was a little bit younger, and so the short answer is yes. I'm a big fan. I like what they were doing. There are some changes, obviously, from the X2 Pro to the X3 Pro that I felt like were the right things that we wanted last year. But on the aesthetic, I think I want them to come up with a vegan leather option. I want to see a vegan leather, something, give us that that kind of appeal. And if that doesn't come out, I'm going to find an Extreme Skins or something like that. Shout out to Matt Thaler and everybody for the Extreme Skin, not a sponsor, and get something on there to kind of get the experience going for me.
And Josh is calling you out. One of my favorite clips of Issa is her singing Baby Shark while activating the Oppo Reno 10 times zoom front facing camera.
I did a TikTok with that one.
If I did a dancing challenge with like the crew of
oh my god
YouTubers,
hold on, let me bring
like
that up.
Gadget Goddess and stuff, I think I'm gonna need to see your rendition of Baby Shark, because that was played quite a bit in our household. I've got my dance moves down for Baby Shark, so we might need to make like a collab happen on that.
Issa singing Baby Shark and then Juan dancing tap. It's like all day.
I love it. I'm down. As long as I'm not dancing, I'm down.
Oh no. Vocals by featuring me. And then TK giving us the sick beats in the background as our DJ. I feel like we can take this show on the road. I feel like we've got an act here. It's ready to go. It's packaged.
We got the crew.
Yeah, we got the crew. we just need one more road mic.
Yeah,
exactly.
You get two, right? Receiver.
You get two with the air. See, she did it. She segued back into the main thing. I love it.
Back.
This is what Joshua has been teaching me subconsciously. These segues, man. They're hard. So
let me just slam on the brakes so I can change subjects and we can talk about something else.
No, but seriously, I love that phone, and as I'm spending more time with it. I'm working on doing more of a camera review on it a little bit more. The overall, I think what Oppo's doing this year, it's just the beginning of the year, right? The Find X3 Pro is supposed to be their best. So we'll have to see what other versions they do release, because they do tend to release other versions. If there's one thing consistent is their themed base. Speaking of Josh, the Find X2 last year, they had the League of Legends. They sent them a box. And Juan, if there's ever an epic unboxing of a phone, is that version of it. Dude, you open the box and the phone ever so nicely like just lifts up, and it's just literally like it was like
and another thing, did you see that the Find X2 Pro had like a mint green version?
Yes there was also European one. I think Europe had one. Yeah
Wait, okay, I'm just sort of imagining it right now. Go on.
Yeah, those aquas and greens, like for the OnePlus 8 Pro. I mean, like, I know the OnePlus 8 with the weird like color shimmer mirror finish was supposed to be the fancy one, but like it's like a pistachio mint metallic green. And like it's so pretty.
The color was absolutely sublime. The 8 Pro.
Usually I'm blue. Usually the only correct answer is blue. If you're going to make something and you want it to catch my eye, blue is the correct answer. But when OP did mint metallic green, it was like that's like an old roadster. You know, it's like something my grandfather would have driven in like knee-high basketball socks or something like that. Like I need that.
It's a pretty color. So. It was a pretty color, and I think it's like. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No. I'm so the thing for us here in the US, which is a little bit of a difference, obviously from where. So OnePlus has a much bigger footprint here in the US now that we've had than where we see with Oppo. But one thing I do appreciate is some of the features that like from last year with the OnePlus 8 Pro as well as the Find X2 Pro is the fact that the panels we got to experience the technology that BBK, OnePlus, all of insert name under umbrella. We got the OnePlus 8 Pro with the 120 hertz and the QHD, and it is a beautiful panel. I'm saying it still is. And that to me makes me more excited to see what the 9 Pro is going to offer, because what we have now and what we see with the Find X2 Pro, Find X3 Pro is that next level of evolutionary, the improvements on color science, improvement with 10-bit, all throughout the actual system. It's not just necessarily,
it's like they're fun cousins,
Yeah, very, very fun.
Yeah, was fun to see, to put side by side a OnePlus 8 Pro, and especially seeing what you two have been playing with on the Find X3. It's a little morsel. It's the hors d'oeuvre, kind of whetting my appetite for what we might get from a OnePlus, knowing that there's a little familial lineage.
There's going to be something. Yeah, absolutely. What part of it does transfer? I'm not sure. We don't really 100%. The Hasselblad obviously is purely from the leaks, what we're seeing here. And I would say what we heard with the announcements is that this is purely an Oppo thing. But the fact that the Find X series now has wireless charging is a big thing for me, because they also jumped in with VOOC. They took what OnePlus did last year with the 30 watt, and then now it's here, right? Like, I wanted these last year. So yeah, but we could talk for days. I'm glad that you're getting a chance to playing with it. And what are you working on? What do you love? I mean, sorry, let you go back.
We're not ending the show yet, TK.
No. I'm trying to figure out a way how to pull the brakes and shift conversation. I don't
know. So sorry. So it's pretty interesting, the whole OnePlus thing. Again, to me, OnePlus's marketing has never really appealed to me as much. I appreciate them to be power pack phone. I appreciate them to be fast and non-clunky and all these things that some users value so much. But for me, those weren't things that I put first usually when it comes to devices. And the thing that made me sad about OnePlus phones always was that it just felt like I wanted more from the cameras. That was always it for me. Like, there's no arguing about how good these phones are, but it's just like, it's always been my thing that, like, I mean, I have access to so many cheap phones and I want the camera. And you can get cheap phones with greater cameras. You know what I mean? So that's always been that for me when it comes to OnePlus devices, which is why this new one coming out is so interesting to me, because if they are able to improve it, and I'm not saying improve it to do in a way that it becomes the best camera ever in the world and it can have a microscope and something that can zoom to the moon, I'm not needing that. I'm just needing it to be of a certain quality, a certain point where I'd be fine with it.
To put you on the spot, because you were the one that kind of schooled me and kind of kicked my ass about selfie cameras when we first met, and you went through the whole tutelage of why I was wrong to always shoot from the rear cameras. Because I look at a OnePlus, and recently I would say their phones have gotten much stronger for photography, and I think a lot of people are still complaining about OnePlus from their memories of OnePlus 5s and OnePlus 6s being kind of weaker options for photography. The one thing that I would point to, though, is I still feel like the selfie camera on the OnePlus 8 Pro is a generation, 2 generations behind. Even something like an LG Velvet or a Wing or something that you wouldn't expect to have good front-facing optics, let alone some of these other players that really prioritize that front-facing camera. So when you're kind of pointing that kind of stuff out, have you been coming more to my side of the fence where you try to take more photos from these massive rear cameras, or are you still more focused on capturing selfie content from those front facing cameras?
Always selfie content, but I mean, it's
you've been doing a little more of my rear shooting, admit it.
Yes, I have. But it's also, I also think that part of the equation there, and this is gonna spill over to other phones, is that it's also software side, I'm not seeing. It's like it's also very bare bones to me.
Mm. No,
So it's
fair.
like,
That's
I mean,
absolutely
so
fair.
it's the same way that people can love the iPhone cameras, but they're just not as fun for me. And it's the
Mhm.
same way that, you know, I have these Xiaomi cameras, which sure, hardware, you can say anything you want about them, like whether they're powerful or not powerful, but at the end of the day, it's the only phone that has clone mode.
Yeah.
So I mean, so
It's actually
it's
very
not
fun.
even, yeah, it's not even, it's, I'm not even going into the whole quality wise,
Mhm.
hardware wise of the One Pluses. I selfie wise, there's always been something off with how they do the selfie. I don't know what's going on there. It's like I've always not liked my selfies on that phone. Um, but it's like, I don't know. For me, it just taints my whole experience when I don't enjoy it as much.
Right.
For someone like me who shoots not for cinematic gain, is that right? I just want cute things to post on social media, man.
No,
Which
no,
is why, like,
Okay, so that I think is a very useful, that's a very illustrative point, because last week we had Trisha Hirschberger on,
I was just about to
and
go there. Exactly. Sorry.
when I'm talking about smartphone photography, and I'm, because I don't share photos of my daughter, but I'm
Mhm.
looking at this as like an archivist. Like I
Yeah.
am documenting her life, and hopefully delivering media to her that I didn't get when I was a kid growing up.
Mhm.
Like we just didn't have the technology and the budget. Our family couldn't afford to like video every waking moment of our lives and put it
And
into a time
cameras were
capsule.
way expensive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So when I have those expectations on a smartphone camera, I'm looking at this almost like a documentarian.
Mhm.
That's the kind of footage that I'm going for. And I don't share it on social media. So I'm not looking for the vibrance, the saturation, the filters, the fun, putting, animojis or AR elements into my phone. Like, I don't want any of that, because I want something that kind of like philosophically borders on truth so
Yes,
that I
yeah,
can share that with
and
her.
yeah, no, definitely, and this is why like a lot of people look for, let's say, the pro mode, and if you're able to
Right.
shoot in RAW, or if you're like
Mhm.
right now you can shoot in log for this phone. Do you say it
Yeah.
log? Do you say
I'm so
log?
stoked to
Do I
see
say
Log coming
LOG?
back.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you say that? I've not even said that out loud, and I have to say it. But I mean, I guess for me, and it's pretty much in keeping with
But
how
it's a
I
different
develop.
goal.
It is a
You've
different
got a
goal.
different expectation on
Oh,
what it is that you're
definitely.
you're,
Yeah,
you're trying to deliver.
Mhm.
definitely. And this is why, like, even when I say the OnePlus phones don't excite me as much, I don't disagree when other people say that they're great phones and that they have great value for money and they're
Mhm.
fast and they're amazing at performance. And
Yeah.
I give you that because they are. It's just that obviously their direction, and we've talked about how arrow straight their direction has always been. Their
Right.
direction were never towards my needs.
Yeah.
So it's really just that. And I'm not going to fault the company for not catering to my needs, right? It's like,
It
again,
has to be Xiaomi fun.
again, again,
Josh is in there. Yeah.
it's like I'm all for technology no matter where you want to put it. I can
Mhm.
say I like it or not like it, but even when I don't like it, even when I'm not the target, that doesn't take away from it being good tech. And I feel like that's one point that a lot of people, especially a
Isa,
lot of consumers, have to
that is
think about,
far too
right?
reasonable a commentary to bring to the internet. I need you to be wrong, and I'm going to let you know in your comments that
You know,
everything that you hold near and dear, your opinions are completely invalid.
right?
I'm
Like
sorry it
it's
has
just,
to come to that, but
I mean, sorry, internet person who is telling me everything I need to know about the content I've worked on for the last few years, right? I mean, it's just, come on, you guys. Like, I'm not hating. I'm just
so
saying this is what I like, and and
so
it's completely valid. Yeah.
I've got to share the joke with you, and I might be repeating myself from when Trisha was on here too, but I just thought you would get a kick out of this. That my wife was so tickled by a mansplainer joke that she heard, but then when she told it back to me, she changed it. So Issa, where does a tech enthusiast get their water?
They don't. They're dry. I don't know.
Oh, well, actually.
Oh my god.
It's so
That's so true.
So again, my wife works in a somewhat more male dominated kind of bro industry, and she sees all of the comments like on my videos of like, well, you said this one spec in a way that you shouldn't have phrased it with this, and so she was like, she read this joke on mansplainers, and she instantly translated it into like the techie audiences that we've got to like.
It's oh my gosh, yes. So like it's funny because, for example, like I post about the microscope, right? And then people are like, well, actually
Actually
someone said like, well, my Oppo phone can do that. And I'm like, which Oppo phone? Which Oppo phone? Tell me now. I am And someone was like, well, actually my Huawei Nova 5T can do that. I'm like, I have a video on it. No, it can.
No, it can't.
I was like, what are you guys talking about? You're trying to correct me. I literally have all these phones. Like, what?
Well, actually, if you get a microscope and you put the phone on the microscope lens, you can do the same thing.
Do it.
It's pretty much the same.
Someone
Just
even
have the microscope in the back pocket.
Dude, someone even went as far as saying like my phone can do that, but it doesn't have a light in the lens. And I'm like, so it can't do it. Like, well, actually, my phone can. It just can't.
So please.
I love Josh. Is like, well, actually, my microscope can do that.
No, don't get me wrong. Someone did comment that. They were like, well, actually, it can't work as good as a microscope. And I'm like, because it's not. What?
So again, like any nuance or proportionality, it's just all gone. But please feel free to spread that joke because my wife was really tickled by making actually.
Oh my gosh. So I have a creator friend who made merch, and like the context is all completely different, but I just realized that it ties together. Wait, give me 1 second, guys. Distract them. I need to show you it. Wait.
Yeah, do it. We got you. We'll be here. So TK, ramen experiment. Dude, so good.
I need that recipe, man. I need that recipe.
I'm gonna write it all up for you. So there's so much umami. It's
so delicious. I love. Sorry.
Okay.
So I love this girl. Her name is Mary Bautista. She is a big creator in the Philippines. She has like 1 million plus subs. Good friend of mine. And her merch.
I love it.
Yes, it's amazing. And like, of course, the context is all completely different. It's like in her videos, she always says, this is this. And actually, guys, because I mean, it's even when you
all have
Tagalog,
our hooks on. For me, it's like if you ever hear me say the word experience, you take a shot. So.
Yeah, mine is basically.
I like it.
Oh, I say basically.
TK is also at the end of the day in the first third of the conversation where we haven't gotten to the end.
Man,
well, at the end of the day, it's this. So let me tell you about this other feature. And
I say all those things. I guess all of them are my.
No, but too, it's like again, it's like you've got to find your pattern, and there's like. If I don't throw a but I digress into a video, I feel like I haven't done my job. Like you just gotta find your flow, and it's those sayings that kind of help you organize how you take your points. But sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I mean, I appreciate that. Like, oh my gosh, Joshua just calling me out and putting me on the spot here.
I mean, and like that was cold. I mean, he just like dropped it. He was like, boom. Nailed it.
To be honest,
well, actually,
basically that's how it is. Yeah, that's how we're gonna do it.
At the end of the day,
yes, it's it's fine.
exactly. But like, you know what? One of the other things that came out within the last couple of days, which I realized that the Find X3 Pro is like literally the massive. I would probably say the massive news coming out was a little device. Small company, puts out a
Tiny.
few things. Tiny, known for
Maybe you've heard of them. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Josh may be aware of them. I don't know. A new generational upgrade.
Yeah.
Definitely skipping a number, which is confusing me, but I understand why they skipped the number. Is very, very badly done segue here from TK.
Well, you don't call out the bad segues. You just keep going. You just fake it till you make it. Oh, that is some sweet ROG action right there.
Hold on. Yeah, ROG Phone 5. This is not the ultimate.
I gotta talk like this when we're talking about ROG.
Dude, quad DAC, stereo, balanced stereo experience, triggers.
I heard from another tech influencer that it had bezels, and that made me throw up.
You know what? When you have bezels and you have a purpose behind them, then you can throw up all you'd like. Because
hashtag wasted space. Thank you very much. I already need to. I already have my opinion and my bias confirmed. So I think you can, sort of see yourself out with this hideous monstrosity of.
Speaking of the monstrosity that is the screen.
Good.
It is a large display for sure.
That was smooth.
I'm curious about the screen though. The last one I tried was the I'm trying to remember because we skipped the number.
I skipped the 3 like you. I mean, I last one I played with was ROG 2.
Yeah, so. I skipped the 3, which was my bad because they sent it. I had it. I was overwhelmed with the other phones I had to shoot. And so I was not able to try it.
Very dirty.
But how is the screen? Because I remember the screen on the 2.
So I still have the 2. We used the 2. This is actually our gaming phone. Literally, my son has put it through its paces, and it's going through some interesting levels now. The screen is delaminating, the one I repaired after I broke, but that's just beside the point. The screen actually is very nice. The refresh rate is 144, not 120 that we had with the ROG Phone 2. It's continuing into what the 3 did actually in a certain way. But what I loved about it is that they brought back the headphone jack. I love the story of when a company listens and understands that gamers need zero latency. You need a headphone jack on a phone that's called a gaming phone, and don't introduce it as part of an accessory, because then you're having to always have that accessory if you want to use your wired headphones. So the screen is very nice. The bezels on the top and bottom, again, when they're like, if we go back to the Razer phone, the Razer phone did that exact same thing. They had speakers, symmetrical setup on the top and bottom, and Juan will be able to help us out with that one. He'll be my assistant today. Hold on. Here's Isa. We'll bring back Juan. Razer phone does everything else.
That's the one that stands up, right?
Yeah, you can prop it. It stands up pretty. I mean, I've got a kind of a rubber bumper on it that causes it to lump. But in my not so scientific game testing, was only about 8 to 10% slower in extended gameplay than a Galaxy S21. So Razer Phone 2.
Yeah, no. And the Razer Phone 2 was very. I loved the aesthetical design there, and you could see right there. It looks so ever so nice next to Juan. Thank you, Juan. Your check is in the mail.
I'll get the shiny back here. And
RGB. So you got the Razer Snake, the triple snake.
I'm just catching the light because I don't have it on right now. But it's like the sort of like a spiritual cousin to like Sony Obelisk or the what is it called from 2001, A Space Odyssey, the Monolith or whatever.
Yeah.
And here I am looking at my mic trying to figure out, it's the same brand, right?
It is Razer, yeah. So I think it's probably on the one. It's right around there. So ROG, the screen is very nice. It's a 1080p panel, not a QHD, but that's because gamers care about that. They're following what gamers follow. Gamers' preference is high refresh rate, good quality, not great. We don't want 4K at 60. We want 1080 at 120 or 1080 at 144. So speakers are great. They're louder and even better than before if you want to play using them and playing them at 100%. The headphone jack, oh my God, Juan, I'm playing games with my 770s. Who would have thunk using
outside of an LG, that was a no-go. So
that was a no-go in any.
Huge.
So as a brought back the feature, not only bringing it back, but bringing it back with a quad DAC. To me, this was like a massive, and this is again the entry level. This is not the ultimate. This is not the pro. The entry level ROG Phone 5, really nice. Large battery, 6,000. They learned a little bit from what we saw with Oppo in a certain way. They split the batteries, so now we have a dual 3,000 milliampere batteries, so that you're able to charge it a little bit faster. There's a lot of things being put in there. There's even some options in there to help us reduce the strain on the battery when you're doing fast charging, like overnight, so you don't have to do lightning fast charging. So it's the other thing that I also loved about it, which I think Juan will also really appreciate, is the management on the thermals, especially with the 888 when it comes down to gaming. The fan actually does improve and provide us a more consistent frame rate gameplay for extended sessions, where we've seen with other devices that we're playing with that have maybe some issues or some concerns. So I'm working on a gaming review for this because I want to be able to focus specifically on what it does. My essentials video, as the guys in the chat will know, I'm starting to dub all my initial videos of a content on a device. They're going to be called the TK Essentials because I'm covering many features. It's a longer format, but it essentially, the point of it is to give you initial view of a smartphone that at launch, should that device be the phone for you? I'm not diving in heavily on anything, but I cover everything. Cameras.
So Issa, what games are you playing? Because you have to be an expert on smartphone performance, and you have to be an expert on gaming.
Oh my god, you guys are totally gonna judge me. Is it on this phone or is it on the iPhone?
I was totally giving you the softball setup because I know we talked about jerks and gaming and stuff.
Actually,
actually,
on my iPhone, I have this stupid game with beakers.
Okay.
And the whole point
we're a STEAM household. My daughter is all about chemistry and science and stuff.
Look at me gaming right now.
Wow.
I just have to pour in the same color.
Am I seeing some lag on that? Are you not hitting 120 frames per second on your iPhone? I don't even see how you could look at that screen without 120 hertz.
With all the smudge. Well, actually, guys, this isn't an iPhone 12. It's an iPhone 5. Okay.
What we have to be careful though is because I'm going to make so much fun of actually, and then I'm going to start saying it unironically
in video videos. Watch
it's going to mess me up if we keep doing this. It's going to be bad.
I tend to do that too. Like I say something like it's funny, and then I actually just say it, and then okay. Once upon a time, before I start, sorry, really quick segue. Once upon a time, before I started actually doing this creator thing full time, I would post stupid, ironic crap on my Instagram all the time. I'd post a selfie and be like, am I pretty XOXO? Just because I thought it was so funny, because people who knew me would know that I would never. But then I realized that it's a public profile, right? You'll just find it and look at my profile thinking, oh my God, she is that girl. I'm just I stopped.
For me, I picked up this weird, not a weird thing, but it's a thing that Juan does all the time when he's doing his SGGQA live stream on Mondays. He does the da da da, and that stuck to me. On my live streams on Saturdays, I found myself when I listen to the audio stuff, and it's every time I'm reading comments, I'm da da da. I'm oh my!
I have virus,
and the more I think of it, the more
habits.
The more it happens, and I don't mind it. It's just, yes, it's a form of flattery. If you think of it in a certain way, we appreciate, we admire each other as creators. We work together all the time. It is bound to happen that certain, little, I would say, quirks or little things that we do tend to kind of go from one to the other.
But sorry, I mean, I set that up in a really obnoxiously jokey kind of way, but that was kind of a question just to sort of lean into. You looking at a phone like the Find X3, that's a powerhouse device. It's a powerful phone. Issa, when you look at something that's gamer focused, is there anything that you see on that kind of makes sense to you outside of kind of a core performance junkie,
like a Black Shark or like a Xiaomi,
or like the Red Magics or any of those?
So this is why I don't do I don't really do gaming reviews. Why? Because I don't game.
Right.
Joshua has seen me game.
Well, sorry, to jump in, I think there's something interesting about gaming laptops for content creators, right?
Mhm.
For a while there, it was way cheaper to get a powerful laptop, and you just sort of suffered through some weird Mountain Dew fueled design language on
Joshua
laptops.
worked on a gaming laptop.
Yeah,
But you know, like if you tried to get a mobile workstation that looked more like a traditional laptop, they would be much more expensive, and then there'd be this gaming laptop. I'm always kind of curious because I'm a performance junkie. I'm trying to push how far I can take smartphone use. So there's something about gaming phones that definitely appeals to me outside of just whether or not I'm sitting down to play games on them. And I'm always kind of curious, like when I was showing my family and friends the Razr 2 back in the day, like the things that were really getting me excited about that phone weren't really translating. Like, there wasn't something for them to latch onto. And I'm kind of curious, like you holding an extremely powerful phone in your hands right now, does a gaming flavor of that bring anything to the table that you would think, oh man, I wish my phone had that?
I mean, in terms of gaming, like if am I
oh no, but like
wanting
outside of gaming,
stuff?
like
okay. Well,
like
for
you know,
me,
you're
it's
talking
like
about power, fast refresh rate displays, colored accents,
I
lights
was
on
gonna
the
say
back of your
RGB,
phone.
RGB
okay. So
color accents on the back.
RGB has always like excited me in a way that is weird because I just really like it. I just really like the fact that it's bright and it lights up and you can customize and I love it. Which is weird because there is no inch in me that is into gaming. This mic is the most gaming thing in my life right now. And I mean, I like it because it's pink. The thing with gaming phones and gaming devices, I think for me would be looking at if they do other normal functions as well and as less bothersome as they would with those added features. I'm not sure if it was a podcast with you on or with you, TK, or maybe neither of you, but I said it somewhere, I can't remember where, that like there is to me value always in having something added to a device without it taking away from what it originally intends to do. So let's say for the ROG phone, the last video I did on the ROG phone 2 was not necessarily a gaming test. It was a how would this function if I wanted something powerful but I wanted to use it every day phone, which surprisingly did pretty well. I mean, considering it's not a gaming phone, I mean, like, will I be able to even do social media as well if I want to be on this gaming phone? You know, there are people who want power but aren't really gamers, and I feel like that would make sense. Like, you know, so for me, it's more of that. Like, in spite and despite of, how does that change the experience for me when my use cases aren't as intense? On the same vein, I'm really finding it cool that the Ultimate has that screen. I really like that.
I love the fact that they did it, but they did it a little bit in reverse. The Pro, when that one releases, has a colored back display. The Ultimate has a monochrome because it matches the black and white coloring. So it's like the Pro is almost like weird. Like, wow.
And even Red Magic, there are weird differences between like the different flavors of Red Magic 6, where it's like, well, wait a minute, why does the most expensive one not have this one that the less expensive one has this? I'm a little confused by what they're doing. So, like, you know, I feel that there is a market for, and this would probably be a niche device, but I'm kind of surprised that for as much as RGBs have kind of taken over the desktop and laptop segments as accents, as customization, consumers like pretty lights. I mean, this isn't a shocking thing. I'm actually kind of surprised that there hasn't been like a good mid-range, not a gamer focused phone, but something that you had maybe sort of color adjustable backlighting. And then that could also be a part of like how it works with your flashes or works with your cameras. You could do like edge lighting around the phone, so your phone just becomes a ring light. You know, I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen anything like that.
I mean, I think the nearest I could think of would be that Samsung case with the lights on.
Yes.
I was about to say, yeah, they
Exactly.
did that one with was it the S7 Plus, or I forgot what it was. Like it was a while back. They did release a case with the ring light option on it. Yeah.
But I'm kind of surprised that we haven't taken some of this color accent work or these sort of LED lamps and incorporated them more into the actual like body of the phone.
Yeah, I agree. I'd go for I mean, come on, man.
No, dude, absolutely. RGB, anything to help us customize our smartphone. And the reason because RGBs are great because you get to customize it to the colors. Like if Juan wanted a blue RGB coloring on the back or a red one in this situation, obviously that's the wrong color, Juan. You need to change that to blue.
No, I'm doing the chroma white.
You're doing
it's green now. It's
green.
Just, it's doing its thing.
It's doing its thing.
So it's so sad that Razer left. I mean, like we look at ROG now, and you're like, why? This was so
ROG is literally I like to call it the gaming phone that every other company wants to try to make their gaming phones be. And with the return with the headphone jack for me, they did solidify that because that was my biggest thing with the 3. The 3, it was like, they so from what I understand essentially is the benefit of the 888 allowed them to have enough space to be able to put the headphone jack back in.
Sure.
So yeah,
okay. We'll go with that.
We'll go with that.
Sounds right to me.
Whatever reason you gave us the headphone back. The audio experience is really good, but I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about a mishap or a little bit of a fumble that I did with.
What happened?
So
what did you do?
I'll say this: the phone is fine. The phone is fine. Okay,
it's never.
Fine?
It's
is it fine?
You know, when you start with that, it's scary.
No. So the phone is fine. It's a little bit scuffed on the side, and apparently, it's a brand new phone, but and I don't know how long I have it, but anyways, the casing or the attachment that comes at the Aero Cooler 5 is it's an accessory that you can do to be able to manage thermal, which is what I was trying to talk to one about the whole day about managing thermals and playing games for an extended amount of time. The air cooler does actually help with the thermals to bring down the temperatures, but apparently, not even 2 days into me having that phone, I damaged one of the pins on the actual connector. Like the whole pin popped with the spring coming off. So as opposed to 6 pins, I have 5 or 4 now. And I didn't realize, and so I put it on and I was like, it's not working. I reached out. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I've had to literally, now I have it on the back of the phone and I cannot take it off because I finally got it to work with a small little, I cut open a wire. I've twisted it down to a small size, put it into the actual place just to make the connection, and it worked. And now I just leave it on. So
yeah, nothing could be dangerous about you having an exposed copper
wire
element that runs power to a high RPM fan that sits on the back of a phone with an SoC that runs pretty warm,
really warm, without the fan up to 121.
If this happened to me, I'd just be like, Joshua, what?
So for me, for reference though, it is somewhat fixed to get the fan. So the fans do turn on. I am going to wait once it becomes available publicly to be able to purchase. If this phone is still here, I'll buy another one to replace the unit because I feel so bad. It was the only way for me to get it to work. Is I felt like that was the only way to truly test the gaming, and I didn't have it fully working for the amount of time that I had the phone before the video. So for the video, I just was able to show that the fan ramps up, but I didn't have any data to show the cooling effect. So that was the reason I was a little bit bugged about it.
TK, man.
Of all the things I could have broken, the one thing that helps it last for a while is the one that I did. So I feel bad.
But how did it break though?
It's the way, apparently you have to insert bottom first back clip as opposed to basically just snapping it in. It doesn't. So what they changed from last year to this year's Aero Cooler, the last year's model was very more symmetrical. It was a straight kind of like rectangular on the back and it clamps. This one has a clamp that's small on the top and is wider on the bottom, and it doesn't rest exactly where it is. Like there's an opening for it. Where last year was 2 ports on the bottom. There was the USB-C port, and then there was more of the connector. This one has only one USB-C, and the other ones are the pogo pins. So short answer, I damaged the pins, and there was not enough time for me to even try to figure out.
I feel like Josh just won the chat.
Yeah,
TK broke the charging bay.
With that being said, thank you, everybody.
Okay, I have to say this, but isn't he just great about putting stuff out of his butt and it being like amazing?
It's pretty good.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because, like, I mean, just for context for our podcast, I was like, oh, I have no idea what to name this. Like, what should we name it? He was just like, what about Technically Together? And I'm like,
okay.
Did you just think about that now? Because that's sort of like,
that makes
he does
sense.
that all the time. I don't know. Maybe he stays up at night and thinks up these. Like,
he does. He's like cribbing notes. He's got like those composition notebooks, just like full of witty ideas and stuff.
Mental list of what he could suggest.
Just spitballing here. But what about like this as an idea? And you're like, okay, Josh, I think I'm hip to your game now. I think I know what's going
the charging bay. That was number 7 on the list.
That was exactly 7.
He came up with that in the fall of 2013, and he's been sitting on it until TK breaks a phone.
Exactly, so. And he takes out his scroll and just chucks it off. I used that one. Can't use it again.
Mark.
Exactly. But the phone itself, realistically, obviously I am going to remove it. The best thing for me to do is I'm going to try to get my solder kit, set it up correctly, and actually attach it. The only thing that's missing in it essentially was the pin had a spring under it, and because I bent, and I actually still have another one that's somewhat bent, I just need to literally solder a more sturdy, not exposed wire. Just keep it, even though it doesn't extend as much, as long as the phone sits on it correctly, it should be fine. And then I'll buy a replacement. So short answer, it's met my expectations and then some. What I would probably kind of bring it back to what Isa was talking with the ROG Phone 2 is the camera experience is still a little bit, it's still not the focus. It's a gaming phone. They do it great. Shoots 8K. If you want to just do casual,
I feel pretty confident, not having held the phone, that if you pick up an ROG 5, you are in for a phenomenally better photography experience than on a Nintendo Switch.
Absolutely. There's leaps and bounds.
Right? Like you can like light years ahead.
I'm literally. I had to think about that. I had to be like, we're doing that. TikToks
as a portable camera experience, the ROG 5 is absolutely gonna murk the PlayStation 5.
Absolutely,
just no contest. Carrying around a PlayStation
and the Xbox X, it's gonna take the whole thing.
Really, that's all you really need to know. Is
guys, I'm gonna believe you. I'm gonna start believing you.
Well, actually, Xboxes can use Kinect, so Kinects are great cameras, and actually, they're pretty good. So
they're way better. No,
but tried and failed to take calls on a Switch. Can you actually do that? You guys are confusing me.
No.
This is what I do. I lie so much, and then I just try to bring people into my lives.
The first time you met me, someone told me that I could not shoot with a table because there were no tables. I believed them. There were tables. You should know better by now.
Yes, I do apologize. I'm sorry.
No, it is, and it does actually. Like I said, short answer, working on the gaming video on the refresh rate is really nice. The control levels are very good. Outside of the camera experience, which I still think is actually pretty good considering where they were with the ROG Phone 2 and the ROG Phone 3.
And honestly, the ROG 2 wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. I was actually pretty
I meant to say it's more like
we're all making like crunchy sounds with our voices. But seriously, I mean, like spending some time with ROG 2, I was actually expecting from Razer Phone 2 to ROG 2, there was all these cameras are terrible. I mean, you can't sell a phone for this much if it can't be a good camera. And so I pick up Razer Phone 2 and I'm like, actually, this is usable. It's not blowing my mind, but like I'm getting good shots out of this. And then same thing with ROG2. Like I took it out into the hills up by Mulholland. And I'm getting like these awesome like desert, rolling hills, landscape shots. Took a couple photos of Lex. Like, yeah, the HDR is kind of flat, but like the photos are fine. I
have a little segue question because I'm pretty curious about this. Do you think that us as tech reviewers, especially at the time when most phones are camera centric, like, are we setting ourselves up for that like super? I mean, this would probably make more sense to you guys because you like pushing your phones to the boundaries of what it can do. Like I'm trying to look at things in like the general everyday thing, and it's like sometimes I feel like I have to like tether my expectations and be a little bit fair to the stuff I review. Because if like I have a phone with two main cameras, 50 megapixel main cameras, right? And the next one that I get, it's not gonna have two main cameras, but it's gonna have like one great main camera. And I go like, yeah, the wide angle isn't so great on this, but I just came from this. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they've been pushing it so hard, so far that sometimes when you think about it, actually step outside of the box and look at everything, you're like, wait, everything is like actually pretty great. It's not actually that bad, right?
No,
I mean, I don't know if
I know for me, my particular biases, biases. I don't know how to pluralize that and sound smart. My issues are definitely ones with familiarity. The biases, issues with familiarity, and I feel like a lot of techies get caught up in that, where you can tell like someone who is way more into is way more familiar with an iPhone isn't necessarily judging another product by any kind of, it pains me to use this word, by any kind of objective standard. They're judging it by their familiarity of the iPhone. It doesn't handle like an iPhone. It doesn't focus like an iPhone. It doesn't output like an iPhone. So it's lesser than, as opposed to finding like what is it the camera is trying to accomplish? How does it accomplish that? And then also, is it living up to the manufacturer's claims for what it could do? And for me, it's like I'm so familiar with Sony and LG because of their manual modes, because of Pro mode, but also for little things like the focus indicator on LG is so handy. And so when I'm trying to like shoot on a OnePlus and I'm trying to get like a weird angle and I'm holding the phone off at the side and I'm tapping the screen with my finger on one side, on an LG, that's exactly where I take the photo. So I don't need to adjust my grip or move the phone around. And then on the OnePlus, it's like, oh, can I reach the volume rocker? Okay, I got it.
Still get it stabilized, exactly.
And that's an issue with familiarity. My output on the OnePlus is going to be poorer because I am more familiar with some of the sort of supplemental benefits of Sony and an LG. And that to me becomes part of what makes talking about cameras so problematic. Is we can't be as well versed on every single phone that comes out, because at the end of the day, for using a TK phrase there, at the end of the day, I still need to get photos of my daughter. Like I still need to get the flower photos from my relaxation hobby. My flower macros that keep me sane. When I just want to go out and get a breath of fresh air. If I'm not getting those, then I'm personally lacking something. And there are a handful of phones that I really like to use to accomplish those different shots. But to your point, it's like I'm almost done writing up the script on a camera deep dive for the Nord N10 because at in the United States, that's a $300 phone full MSRP, and I feel it deserves some of the same type of camera reviewing that we would give to a $600, $900, $1,200 phone. And of course, it's not going to be as good. But at $300, this is actually a substantially better camera experience than I was expecting going into it. And I feel that's a story that needs to be shared. That's a story that needs to be told. I'm less impressed by camera reviews that walk around like, oh, it's just not good enough. I mean, pixels used to be good, but now they're just garbage, I guess. And you're like, you're not shooting on them if that's the final conclusion that you came to. It's like, our threshold for terrible has gotten caught out of whack with where the rest of the smartphone market has gone. All these average consumers we claim to be protecting are doing fine on $200 to $400 phones. Like,
they actually have pretty good camera experiences, actually.
And they're sharing memories, and they're making stories, and they're uploading content, and they're engaging in TikTok challenges. Like, the cameras are not just barely functional the way we make it sound. It's like, no, they're living their lives out of these cameras, and we're sitting here poo-pooing them because like they're not as familiar as the cameras we prefer. And I'm kind of over that review style.
The approach that we see with ROG though is that you could see where they spent the 97% of their budget on when they came to this smartphone, and the approach to the camera is decent. Just you could see that there's not as many bells and whistles in the camera app as when you're getting into the gaming experience. That's the experience, or the comparison when you get into a gaming phone. The sensor is very capable. We have a lot of good functional, apps, modes, I guess, in the camera app.
All I'm hearing is a lot of excuses, TK. Every phone needs to be perfect, 100%. There can be no compromises. There is no room for nuance, TK.
But you'll hear,
I deserve the best of everything, even if I only shoot full auto HDR on an S20 FE. So
basically, at the end of the day, Juan, the camera is okay. It's
actually,
usable. It's
TK, it's not, because I saw someone else's review, and now I have a strong opinion based on the opinion that was fed to me. So there you go.
It is going to be it.
Look what you did, Ethan. Now the whole show is like we're getting a divorce.
It's like
you had to ask
at the end of the day. So, but honestly, one of my favorite features about this is that they have the squeeze functionality. If you guys remember those back from the Pixel days, and you're able to turn on gaming mode and turn off gaming mode by just doing the squeeze function on the phone. So that was actually very. I know it's a gimmicky thing, but I love the. So for gaming, this just does it. Like when you were talking about RGB, Isa, when you were talking about just the experience, I turn on my RGB lights, the mood lighting. I turn off all the other lights when I'm gaming, when I'm playing video games like Warzone or whatever. It's just a mood for me, right? When I'm listening to music, I want my RGBs to respond. This phone does it for me, and I'm happy I got a chance to be able to try it. That's another thing. Because last year I didn't get a chance to play with the ROG Phone 3. That headphone jack was a big part of me. Zero latency gaming is a big thing for gamers, and they did a good job with the accessory if you use the Aero Cooler one. But I felt like you always have to carry the cooler with you, right? Like who does that? Yeah. Carry that entire, like I'm going to play while I'm waiting in line, but hold on, let me snap on the thing and okay, and then you have a fan running. So short answer, it's very promising, and even at its entry level, it's surpassing my expectations of what I was expecting out of it. That headphone jack was a total blindside, kind of like what happened with Sony last year, the Xperia.
You know what I always think is funny about gaming phones are the people that say things like, well, I mean, why would you game on a phone? You'd want to get like a Switch if you're really into mobile gaming. And I've never understood, like, I'm not tagging what you were saying right here. This isn't me being like snarky jokey one. It's like genuinely, I've never understood if I want to game on one of my phones, I've got a really great SteelSeries controller that works really well for a lot of the games that I like to play. Oh, you got to carry a controller around. Right. But your solution was carrying a Switch around. How was that better? That's not. The Switch is great.
Just bringing it back to Razer, my favorite controller is the Kishi controller.
Okay, so Kishi is interesting, and you know what I'm gonna ask is, you were just talking about the audio experience and plugging in headphones and low latency. So what do you do with Kishi if it's blocking the headphone jack?
So what I'll start by prefacing this is, Razer has
defend your choices, defend your opinions, TK.
Let me elaborate. Let me bring you back to my side of the conversation. Kishi is a great controller when you're playing it with other smartphones, and obviously because zero latency is required there. But if you're playing with smartphones that have stereo speakers that sound as good as this smartphone, as when you're using them, that's where it becomes very functional, because the speakers are going to give you that experience. Headphone jack, unfortunately, that isn't going to work. Kishi doesn't do that because there is no pass through it. You are going to have to use something else to be able to use it. Now, Razer, sorry, not Razer, but ROG does have their own controller. I can't remember the name of the controller itself that actually makes this into almost like a Switch-like experience. And you are going to have accessories that you're able to use the headphone jack with it. So, like the Aero Cooler does help. Yeah, exactly. Like the original case for that one. Okay, so I think that one's the X. That's not the Xbox
No, this
controller,
this
right?
is the Steel Series.
The Steel Series, yeah.
So
It looks
the
almost
Duo
like
is
from this
awesome
angle.
because it also has the USB proprietary radio dongle. So when I flick a switch and I'm gaming on my Nook in my living room, and then I flick a switch back, and then it's Bluetooth for my phones, and like I'm good. Like I'm good with this. I don't need to carry a switch and a phone. I just have a controller ready to go when I need it. And
No, absolutely. I'll cover more of obviously how things are there, but audio is very big. Tuning on this is very nice. The profiles, just a whole bunch of different things. The customization level on this one is just top notch. Like I said, that's just 97% of the budget was spent on that. And then I wish they would have been able a little bit more work on processing. But again, at the end of the day, I wouldn't buy this phone for the camera. There's the reason why the RG Phone 2 still
the model you have is the base model.
It's the base 5, not even the Pro or the Ultimate. Yeah,
and so that again, I'm trying to do the currency conversion in my head from the article that I read. That's under 800, right?
Well, euros, yeah. But when you transfer, it's about 850 or so.
Okay, so U.S. pricing, if you were importing, it would be around 900. Getting it to your door.
More than likely, that's probably what it'll be like when we're able to buy it, because this one supports 5G in the US. So that's the other part. Sub-6, no ultra wideband. So that's also a nice move. So you get to get some of those benefits. And like I said, at the 5 level, that the entry level for me just makes me appreciate, like the Ultimate and the Pro, dude, have. Not only do they have the accessory to be able to add 2 buttons, so you got the 2 top buttons controlled, and then you get 4. So you already have 4 now. The Pro and the Ultimate have an additional 2 extra sensitive areas at the bottom.
It's hilarious that they're doing reverse claw.
That's all they're doing. Yeah, it was but the
so
exact
funny.
same thing. All you're doing is now you're doing like this, like you're touching on the back.
That was probably the most horrifically nerdy thing I could describe, because there are different. What do we call them? Like different methodologies for holding and using controllers. And so you think of like a gaming controller and you think, well, 2 thumbs, and then there are all these people that will game on controllers with these kinds of claw style grips, and I'm doing a terrible job of showing this. I'm a 2-thumber. I'm a filthy casual. But it's funny that they're adding all of this hardware to like the sides and the back of the phone, so that all of these tactile, like crab leg. I'm going to call it crab legs.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's pretty interesting. And
it's the Joe's Crab Shack version of mobile gaming.
I mean, like from my side of the world, though, it's like it's not even a question. Mobile gaming is already actually a thing. It is already
esports are massive.
Yeah, exactly. Esports, and it's not so much gaming per se and what device you do it on, but it's specifically gaming on mobile and having tournaments about gaming on mobile. So it's pretty interesting to me seeing that conversation happen, at least in the US. I mean, I am told that it's also culturally you guys do console gaming. But from my side of the world, like not everyone can afford consoles. And if you're going to get the phone anyway, might as well get a phone that can allow you to game. So it's like, I mean, it's just interesting to me to hear all this.
It's a conversation that I've been trying to have a bit more here, where after a year of shelter in place, how difficult it's been to get computer components, laptops are constantly sold out. Kids are needing them for school. People are needing to upgrade their home networking hardware. I mean,
webcams were out for a while.
Yeah, it's still difficult to get a webcam. I mean, like stuff that we used to just like not only take for granted, but thought that we had moved on. Like, I don't need to buy this to keep it in my
God. Wait,
it's insane.
Yes? Because I didn't even know webcams work this well. Joshua and I had a long ass conversation. I refused to get a webcam because I was like, those are crap from my memory from the 90s. So yes, you are right. Completely surprised
White
at how,
plastic ball on a little pyramid base that you would
like, because Joshua, he knows me. He knows when, even if I try to react subtly to something, he knows that what's going on in my head, which would probably be a vehement no. And so when he was trying to get me set up, it was like, maybe you should look into getting a webcam, and I'm like, mm, which to him translates into why. So and he knows me that well, and he walked me through it. It was a whole discussion about why webcams in my mind are not webcams of today. And I mean, lo and behold, I love this because this just works. I just turn it on whenever, and yeah.
Right.
And so yeah, it just goes back to your point. Just tie it.
So, but on top of that, I'm always surprised, and especially here in North America, because what you've described, and I would imagine that the tone of the commentary would be a little bit different. But I show off like video editing and rendering. I'm showing off batch photo processing. So let's say you have a nice camera and you're feeding this into a phone. You can rely on this phone for something that you would have used the laptop for. And I'm coming at this like there's a reason why maybe someone might want to spend a little bit more on a phone, and it helps to displace other devices that they might need to use. Like they don't need to hit a laptop or a desktop as hard. They don't need to hit a camera as hard. Like again, I'm nerding out on little mini microphones and stuff. Like there's more that we can facilitate. And then you mix in things like desktop modes and decks and things like that. And I've never really understood this like North American smug patting myself on the back to just trash talk mobile gaming. There are a couple of gaming podcasts that I really like to listen to, and if mobile ever comes up, it's like they're tripping over themselves to confirm their disdain. Like, I'm gonna play a game on my phone. And you're like, that's cool. You run a gaming podcast where you can afford every console, a high-end gaming PC, and the most expensive VR rigs. Cool. I get it that you own a nice phone and you're not going to use it for gaming, but that's not really the reality for a lot of people out there. My daughter's first gaming console was my phone. The first time she played video games was on my phone. And she's way better at touchscreen gaming than she is controller-based gaming, because that's where she started.
Yeah.
And then disdain and all, these competitions have multi-million dollar jackpots.
Oh, it's like, legit money.
No, it is
crazy.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, I don't know. It's always, I get that culturally it is different. Touching on what you said, like for example, you were talking about distance learning and being able to set up computers and webcams for your children. Here, from my side of the world, that's not even the same conversation. Distance learning, they're talking about the cheapest phone, because you can't ask everyone to buy laptops, especially here, where if you're in the province, you can't even afford stable internet connection.
Right.
So it's like you're now looking at $200 phones that are good enough for school. And $200 is still expensive. And so it's aside from the cultural reality surrounding these conversations, right? There's also like, just let them be. It's always, I get that everyone has a preference for how they use their tech, and that's fine. And I don't hate on that, but don't hate on like how others do it. I guess it's always that for me. It's like I mean, I've fallen into that trap of like seeing that someone is using this for something, and I'm like, I review phones that it's not designed for that. But if it works for them though, right?
The phone needs to work for what you guys wanted. That's really what it is. Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work. I mean, I've run into some issues with a few of my family members, and it's like, you're making something work and it's kind of not working, but you really don't have access or options to anything better. So it doesn't help if I come riding in on my tech splainer, high horse to correct. Well, I mean, what you should really be doing is something different than what you're doing, because it's like they don't have the option. It's not a they chose it that way. It's that they're trying to make something work. And I guess that's also the thing that bothers me is so much of our North American tech commentary is colored with that. And I think it misses, it kind of fuels like a sort of an air of superiority for our country, and then ignores the people in our country who would maybe benefit from just a little more understanding or a little bit more help in picking computer components or low-end systems or something that they can use to get their job done. I look at phones and I'm like, someone might spend $400 on a phone, and I'm pretty confident that's going to be their primary computing device.
Yeah.
So what would I say to that individual, or how would I make a product recommendation for that individual, knowing that they aren't buying a $400 phone because they've got a $1,500 laptop and a $400 game console and, a nice camera, like they're buying a $400 phone. That's going to be it. So I'm not going to sit here and say like, well, I guess you're going to enjoy Candy Crush.
And to your point, Juan, like how many non-techies seeking for YouTube advice are looking to shoot on their phone and their phone only? Like most people, that's what they want to do. They want to be able to have a decent phone that will work for their needs, but will be able to shoot that and edit that and post that. And it's like, let them be. Like kids today edit on TikTok, man. Like a person who shoots. Oh, sorry, go on.
No. I was going to say that the whole experience around TikTok revolutionized what people do. Juan, people shoot video and they may even use the main app, but they have alternate applications, like secondary market applications made specifically for editing TikToks to make TikToks look the way they do in the app.
Why are you explaining? I mean, I'm the guy who's been like, the first time I met Issa, I was shooting and
on
editing
TikTok?
videos for Pocket Now on the Huawei P10.
Actually, that blew my mind. That actually blew my mind though. That me still stressing out about this missing table. So at this point, I had not shot anything. I keep on going back to this missing table.
It's so funny.
One, just like, oh, I'm almost done editing on my phone. Was it a phone or a tablet? I think it was a tablet.
So I started on a tablet, and then I'd made a mistake where the Lenovo that I had, it would not support memory cards in a certain formatted in a certain way. So I had shot everything on the Huawei P10 Plus. And I was like, oh, I'll just transfer it from the memory card over. Oh, it's not reading the memory card. Well, I can plug the phone directly into the tablet. It's not reading. It's literally a different file format, and I can't move it. So I ended up just editing everything on the P10 because I was expecting to do a file transfer and work phone and tablet. And that's when it clicked. Like, I didn't need to bring this stupid tablet. I legit could have done everything from this phone. And it was just because I was a dumb American. It was my first trip to China.
I was looking for a table. You already were on like your editing thing. So
No, but I mean, it's being an inexperienced traveler. Like, I didn't know, like, I was afraid to like bring cameras and laptops and like backpacks of gear like I would normally cover like a CES. And I'm like, well, maybe let me try this. And it didn't work the way I thought it would, but it totally clicked in like, oh, like all of this. I don't need it. I mean, I'm recording the voiceover that's going to go under this video. I've shot all of this footage. I've got it all edited. I've got a bank and a music library and all of the inserts and elements. Like, nah, I'm good. Yeah. Why would I bring a laptop anymore? This worked great.
Minimalistic experience for the win, for sure.
But it's just funny that TK was explaining to me how kids are editing videos in other apps.
No. What I meant to say is that the ecosystem around TikTok has gone to so many levels, though, that it would mirror something that you and I kind of do on the go when we're trying to edit, shoot, and produce and upload to YouTube and encode, do a whole bunch of stuff from our smartphone. It actually does that. Smartphones with enough horsepower can benefit them. But it depends on the user and what they want to get out of the smartphone.
So what's so funny about what? TikTok as well, is that it has a whole editing system in that little app. And it's
It is.
crazy because for me, someone who shoots and edits video for a living, I go into TikTok for the first time and I'm like, how does one edit here? I mean, but you get it, and it's a very specific
It's like going
little
from
program.
Final Cut Pro to Premiere to DaVinci
Yes,
Resolve. It's a
yes,
different style of editing, but once you learn it, it's magic.
But here's the
yeah,
thing that I've been rolling my eyes at a lot of the techie commentary for a couple of years now, is because techies pick up a phone, they push the shutter, and then they expect, is it worth it's enough, or is it goods enough? You know, are the photos HDR enough? I don't know anyone in my circle, non-techie circles of family and friends, who shoots like that. I don't know who this magical average consumer is who needs the perfect shot from one single shutter press and then instant, just automatically uploads that completely untouched photo to social media.
yeah.
Like, I only know people that take a couple photos. I mean, like, take maybe a dozen photos to try and get exactly the composition that they want. And then they still go through some kind of editing. They won't call it editing in a traditional Lightroom kind of sense, where I'm going to touch the structure a little bit and then make sure I'm pulling back the highlights because I want to boost the shadow detail and the saturation. But they're going through filters. I mean, they're editing their content. They're editing their footage. They're doing posts on TikTok videos. They're manipulating this content. And then I go and watch a tech review, and it's the most simplistic, knuckle dragging, mouth breathing, approximation of what real consumers actually do on their phones. And it's maddening because, like, it abbreviates a conversation that could be so much more engaging. It could be so much more accessible, and we could be bringing more people in to say, like, hey, you're editing video. Tell me about how you're making your TikToks. You're doing these quick cut transitions and you're doing these fun, like, multiple character scenes, and it's just you in your living room. Like, that's fun. Let's talk about but no, I mean, what you really want to do is shoot all of your footage from an A7S III and then put that into an Apple MacBook M1. And now with the new Premiere, the new Resolve beta, it has proper support for the M1. And then you want to make sure that you've got the right transitions and effects from a pack that you bought off Humble Bundle. And you're like, that's not, that's like the worst kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah. No, it's and I think like at this point too, though, it's a matter of preference, right? Like how you want your content to come out, because again, we live at the time when a lot of all these cameras, my first camera was a Nikon D80 and it couldn't shoot video. I used to lug around that big ass camera and two lenses in a very big camera bag, and it was the camera
D80
bag
was a nice camera, though.
It was a nice camera, but it did not shoot video.
It did shoot video.
So my point is, like, we literally have phones that shoot 8K. So at some point, it will be able to do what you feel like you'd want it to do. I mean, personally, I've gotten to the point in my camera tests where I would just rather show you, because it becomes a preferential thing, right? So like, I would much rather show you the samples because I have access to this. I can tell you what my opinion is on the matter, but I am now shying away from very big conclusions when it comes to camera performance, because I'm recognizing that how I'm using it might not be how you're using it, and maybe it'll be more value to you if you just see, one, the context of how I'm using the device, and two, the actual product, without me trying to tell you what to think when you see it, right?
And Issa, you know what's even more fun than that is putting unlabeled comparisons up. Like, if you don't tell someone what two phones are, and you just put up footage, tell me what you think. Apparently, this phone has a garbage camera, and this phone has an amazing camera. And if I put these photos side by side, you should be able to tell me, right?
Yep.
Yeah, see, that's a thing. Though. No one it's a lot. It's the human mind is a wonderful thing. Let's start there. With our personal biases and our personal preferences. I mean, who's to say, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, and it's like, sometimes I get questions about like which phone is better, this or this, and I've now stopped answering because at the end of the
There's no
day,
way to.
what do you want? So now what I do is I do my vlog test, my camera test, and if they ask me which has a better camera, I give them the links so you can decide. It's like,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm even getting to the point where, as a consumer who's had stuff fed to her all her life, and then so now it's so skewed in my brain. Tech is skewed in my brain, and that I feel like it can be very uninteresting because of how it's been presented to me my whole life. It's been presented to
Mhm.
me in the most unimaginative way to my liking, meaning my preferences don't align with how it traditionally is presented. And since that's
Yeah.
what I've been presented my whole life, I'm not even gonna look into thinking about it, right? But then,
Yeah.
like, now, what I'm trying to do is retrain people to see for themselves and say, oh, wait, this is what I like. It's not so much me saying, you should like this because it's pretty cool. I mean, I could say this is pretty cool because technologically speaking, it is cool. But
Yes.
whether or
Mhm.
not you appreciate the output, like I'm not gonna feed you that anymore because
Let
you know why? When I do, I get crap for it too. Because then
Yeah.
apparently my opinions don't matter. And so I'm like, you know what? Decide for yourself then. Help me.
Well, actually, Issa, someone on a different YouTube channel said something different than you,
Uh-huh.
and I think you do well to watch what they said, because what
Yeah,
they said aligns more with my feelings,
I've
and you said
gotten
something that disagreed with my feelings.
yeah, I've gotten this so much, and I'm like, yeah, example, always a big example, the me going like my hands are small, right? And they're gonna be like, well, this white dude who reviews phones says that it's not too big for their phone. And I'm like,
It's just like, okay, so hold on, let me get this straight. Our size metrics now, because I've made this joke. I'm sort of average build and height. I'm of average overweightness. I mean, like, I'm peak of the bell curve, boring, in all of the best possible ways. But I've always joked, like, I've got kind of like hobbit hands, right? So even for my size, like, I pick up a phone like the V60, and you're like, I'm struggling to make it into the screen.
let's just put it this way, like sometimes I hold this phone and everyone's like, oh, you have the iPhone 12. I'm like, this is the mini. This is the mini in my hand. So like, I've had people look at my photos and be like, oh wow, that mini looks really big in your hands. And I'm like, it's scale, you guys. It's scale. I mean, so it's just I don't know. It's one video at a time, right?
One
Like,
video at a time,
Right.
one
It's like,
one smartphone at a time. I think
as we all wrap up this podcast with a little group therapy for the tech reviewers and online content creators. You just keep plugging away, man. You just
you know,
take one step. You just
one
one
step
step
at a
at a time.
time, and I try to say, let the text speak for itself, and watch the video, make your opinions for based on what you see, and let them help. The goal is for my videos, or for the videos that we put out, is to help you make a decision. It is not to sway you one way or another and say this is the best thing since sliced bread, go ahead and buy it, everything else is trash. And I think that's what we try to give out as an opinion. So be it the style that Issa's mentioning, the personalization, the customizations that you get, especially with the experience, or even the production level style that what Juan is also kind of covering with smartphones. I think gaming is a big factor for the next generation of new users to smartphones, because as Issa mentioned, my son's first experience into gaming was on a smartphone, which is totally different than what I was my entire experience, which was on a early generation, like an Amiga or a Commodore 64 console, more desktop style, and we grew up with that. But I do want to obviously say thank you very, very much to Issa for joining us and lightening up our day. And I don't think I've ever smiled as much. And I know my wife's going to be upset at me when I go up there later. I've laughed so loud.
You're that Joshua? I'm kidding.
just a little rivalry in the comments there,
dude. I'm Josh. I'm getting him into Genshin Impact. Let's just say that much.
Okay, TK, you gotta try though. I mean, Battle Chasers.
No.
Is Omar into RPGs? Is he into twin stick shooters?
He's heavy
tower defense,
into Minecraft. Obviously Fortnite. He's like lives and dies by Fortnite.
I mean, I get that. That's great, but Genshin, you really want to get him on like
well, no,
the gotcha mechanics of a game like Genshin?
He saw me. Every time I get a phone and I get a chance to do my thing, I close my door, I turn on the phone, and I play it on. Obviously, I'm playing it on speaker, so I can record some of the audio in there and so on. So they get to hear in the house how I play games, right? And he hears the music, and a couple of times he comes in, he sees my videos, and he's like, he likes the aesthetics of Genshin. That's the primary thing. It just looks looks pretty. So I gave him the option, but he's still heavy into it. Like Minecraft is literally 90% of his day. He loves building worlds. He loves
that's way better.
Experience. Oh no, absolutely. He saw it in the video, the last couple of videos I posted. And by the way, Genshin is purely because of Josh. Like seriously, if there's ever been a situation why Genshin is in my life.
After Honkai, what is it? Honkai Impact Third. I just I can't go down this road again. I got to tap. Yeah. So it's really pretty and it's a fun slasher, but
girls and dresses and power moves is basically
my takeaway. No, that's the real name of the game is girls in dresses with power moves. But TK, you got to get them on like Sentinel 3 and Sentinel 4. Yeah. There's the Anomaly series. You could try and do something silly like does he like Five Nights at Freddy's? You could do Alien Blackout.
He's very big into Five Nights at Freddy. Yeah.
Alien Blackout, dude. It's so good, and especially on good audio, because if you don't catch the xenomorph climbing through the vents, then you die.
Audio is always
the best jump scare. It's hilarious. It's awesome.
We're venturing into that. Like I said, the 90% of his experience has been Dragon Ball Legends, Fortnite, and Minecraft. Like seriously, 90% of his time has been in Minecraft. So when he saw Genshin, he wanted to play around a little bit with it. So that was purely the introduction.
So I mean, like if you like a game like Genshin, why not give him Implosion and no gotcha mechanics? It's just a straight hack and slash, and
Yeah, no. What I meant to say is, we're still in the infancy of this, getting a little bit more experience.
I know this is when you do it. This is the only time you'll have influence if you let him.
Speaking of which, Final Fantasy VII, we started on that a couple of days ago as well.
That's good.
Yes.
Say that again, Ethan.
Chrono Trigger is hard. I got stuck outside that game. I got stuck outside of the bush and I didn't know what to do. And I'm just like, what is going on?
Oh, and he loves Thumper. Thumper is also really good. One of the really good.
So do you like RPGs? Like Chrono Trigger is that kind of like you go and explore and you get like your little team of characters and.
Okay, let me preface all of this by I grew up not playing games.
Totally.
I went to an arcade and actually played games the first time. I think the last trip to the US with Joshua, because I was just never that person. So I didn't know that there were styles to actually play on the game. Mm-hmm. That being said, the only game I've ever played growing up was Warcraft.
Oh, nice. Warcraft.
Why? I'm not into games. Let me just tell you about Warcraft.
Because my dad has always been the sort of a techie who had internet connected way before anyone else when all the kids were wanting it from their parents and had network.
Warcraft is kind of huge. That's a game.
He was playing it and he had our computers networked and I just wanted to beat him at something. So, but that was my only experience of gaming in my life, right? It's a pretty cool game. I had an ex who was into Civilization. That game I played it
nice.
Twice,
yeah,
that's pretty cool because even playing that, I was more into the fact that this is a cool story, right? I played Final Fantasy once upon a time because there were outfits involved. So to give you an example of how uninvolved I am with games, I played it for 2 weeks straight because I was just like, you can do this. And then I got stuck and never touched it again.
Oh yeah.
So it's like
No, but that's fair.
That's happened to many of us.
so that's me with games. I don't really am that interested unless there's this weird thing that sort of pulls me in. Like for example, I was playing that game with the farm because there were cute bears as characters. Like so it was a whole I build a farm thing. And it like I was playing it for a month because the bear was cute and the tiny fruits were cute. So it's like it's really that.
So-
I tried playing
Issa,
of Josh.
I would actually throw out a recommendation because it's something that I think you can live in for a brief period of time and then you'll get your fix on it and then you'll get on with your life. But if you're talking about that like a beautiful art direction, cute characters, sort of an accessibility to a story that feels like it unfolds like a mythology, I think you do really well with a game like Sky Children of the Light.
So I did that. But so here's my thing with games. Since I grew up, no, okay. So Josh got me on that. But the thing is, since I grew up with no understanding of games, I don't even understand what characters can do in a game. Like, how do you even know they can go inside the bush in Chrono Trigger? Like, who said that? I'm literally just walking around in the map trying to figure out and like tap at things, and now I'm in.
But that's why I would say, like, if you've played Sky Children of the Light, you can also check out Bright Ridge and Vangelis.
Wait, but I got stuck on Sky though. Like I was
but that's just it. Is like I don't feel like Sky's Children of the Light is like a huge accomplishment that you need to finish. If the story is kind of drawing you in, it's about exploration. And when you've kind of gotten your fix on exploring this virtual world, you put it down and you get on with your life. But that's also the same experience that I had with a game called Bright Ridge, where the graphics are a little dated. Like Sky is a prettier game, but Bright Ridge is this open world, lush environment. Little yellow dots tell you exactly where you need to go for the next part of the story. It's not built on a ton of combat. You know, there's like a jumping mechanic, and then you're just sort of exploring this mystical fantasy place.
Nemean Legends. Sorry, I'm just
Nemean Legends Bright Ridge. Okay. And then their follow-up game is similar. It's called Vandgels, Vandgels. And again, you pick them up for a little while, you explore, you get that kind of fantasy fix, and if you don't finish it, that's fine. You get what you need out of it, and then you kind of get on with your life.
I'm gonna try, guys, and I'm gonna let you know how that goes.
Absolutely.
It's I don't know. I mean, I get into things really fast sometimes, but it's not for the same reasons that a lot of people are into things, which is why I find it hard to find things that I like. Like, to give you an idea, my favorite shows ever, and this is gonna be a very weird mixed bag, would be like BoJack Horseman, Attack on Titan right now, and freaking Community and Fringe.
I feel like those overlap really well.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I'm serious. I mean, like the sort of absurd horror of Attack on Titan, the sort of snarky wit of Community. Like, no, I could see a good Venn diagram on folks that are into those types of shows.
If you find something that fits that, please let me know. Is all I'm gonna say, because I mean, I can't even explain it. I can't even explain, like, I'm realizing that the things I like are not very cookie cutter, and that's why I find it hard to find that
if you want something that kind of twists up a little, like, unsettling atmosphere with tropes that play with like classic animation, the game Boris in the Dark Survival. It's Boris in the Dark Survival, and
stuff.
It's not scary, but it's very atmospheric, and it's there are moments of the game where, as you're exploring in this environment, it can have some unsettling moments, but it's not like horror. But it's twisting up like classic animation tropes with an exploration and puzzle solving mechanic that then takes you through kind of like a dark underworld kind of a thing, and it's a very atmospheric game. Bendy and the Ink Machine is I think from the same developer. Bendy.
Okay, I don't know how you guys know. Oh, that's a cute girl. Wait, this is not gonna be like BioShock or something like that, right?
Well,
Is that
again, it's moody and
scary?
atmospheric, so I can't say it's not scary to me, but it kind of keeps me anxious.
Yeah,
For
'cause
other people, it might be kind of intense.
I can't do like so my brother used to play that game and I couldn't. I was like, what
Bioshock, you
what?
mean?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Bioshock.
Oh yeah. Bioshock's fine.
It's
Bioshock gets
freaky.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah. So
So, but again, if you're into properties like Attack on Titan, it's not like you're
But-
a lightweight.
but I'm into Attack on Titan because I feel like it's a beautiful commentary on
Giant
people
human eating
people-
animals.
no, people versus people versus themselves, and people versus society and expectations. It's a great commentary on political strife and how structures in society revolve around power and abuse, and how race and so it's.
Yeah.
I'm more into the like meta commentary of it and like trying to fit it into current events or historical situations that have happened, and how this cartoon, seemingly unwittingly a show for kids, is telling us precisely about the human condition, you know. And it's like so when I go that way, everyone's like, well, I don't know what game you want.
Fair enough. I mean, we can definitely follow up on this. Again, it's I like trying to explore some of those other game mechanics. Like, you know, my mom doesn't really like hardcore sci-fi action video games, but she's really good at tower defense games. And so, you know, like if you put like even something silly like a Plants vs. Zombies in her hands, and she's just tactical. Like every like map, every like challenge, she's got a 3-star. I mean, like she just gets fixated on those mechanics. But if you give her a similar game and it was like spaceships and space commandos, she'd be like, nah, she's not really into that. And it's just funny to see just how different that experience can be conveyed.
I mean, funny story. I once played this game where you know how there are spaceships and you like shoot at stuff and you like just like move it.
Mhm.
So I don't play
Yeah.
those, but then there was a game where the setting was it was in underwater outer space, so everything had like a cute galaxy like feel, and then
Mhm.
so instead of like spaceships, they were fish with really nice shimmery tails, and so when you moved, you could see I played that so long. Not it was cute.
See, but that's why I like arcadey. We call them twin sticks, where you move with one thumb and you kind of aim
with
in the other. And I love over the top, vibrant, bright, cartoony games like that. The actual gameplay can be, you know, intense shooter style gameplay, but for me, I like a comic, bright, kind of silly aesthetic on top of that. And those are the games. Like there's a game called Tesla versus Lovecraft that I just won't shut up about. And it's like, you know, you're Nicholas Tesla fighting these Lovecraftian monsters, and you have like a robot suit, but it's Victorian era steampunk, and it's silly and it's so over the top. But you know, again, it's that kind of art direction pulls me in. If it were just another drab gray like Zombie Hunter in the year 2030, I wouldn't care. That wouldn't be my jam. But I just saw what time it was, and in our time zone, it's a little past my bedtime, so we should probably start wrapping. I know TK started wrapping this up, and then I got us talking about video games. So this is no. This is not on you. This is definitely on me.
Joshua can tell you he sets up the whole thing for it to wrap up, and then I go on a completely different tangent. So carry on.
No. I to bring us back a little bit. Let's see if we can bring it back into everything. I want to say first and foremost, thank you for everybody, obviously, for spending the time with us. the show went as you obviously could go for much, much longer. We appreciate you guys taking the time of your day. And one thing I'm really, really happy is the fact that Jermaine made it into the live stream, which I'm going to leave it there. Because the whole thing on Twitter where he was like, I'm going to be sleeping there. And it's like, don't worry, dude. Juan's going to be able to mind transmit that over there. and Jermaine made it in. But with that being said, thank you very much, Isa, for hanging out with us, giving us some part of your day. We'd love having you on. Last time you were on my show, I remember where I had to drop out and you were running the show. Do you remember? So I'll throw that in there. I'm not going to start too, but same thing happened with Josh one time too when he was on my show. I had to drop out and Josh had to cover. So thank you very much for everybody else. Jermaine, Josh for hanging out with us the whole time. Aditya, Gary the Fireman, Fat Produce. I saw Andrew in there for a couple of times in and out. Hope you guys are doing good. Be safe, stay safe. Take care of your friends, and of course, play games because Juan has tons of games, and I will talk to you later about some of those options for my son. We'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Best of Our Week. Take care. Bye bye, everybody.
Bam.